Reincarnated as a legendary mage, Leon Klein faces the ultimate boss in a fiery dungeon, while the skeletal demon king laughs, declaring that this is finally his end. But our overpowered protagonist refuses to back down from this massive threat, unleashing a massive wave of destructive fire that consumes the entire battlefield, only for Leon to counter with his signature high-tier freezing ice magic, shattering the enemy's confidence as freezing shards rain down from the sky. He screams the Demon King's name while preparing his final ultimate strike. With a sudden stomp, he freezes the entire ground solid in an instant. Sharp pillars of ice shoot straight toward the terrified Monster King's face, who screams in agony as the freezing magic completely pierces his body. This boss crumbles into pieces while cursing our hero with his last breath. A massive explosion follows, signaling the true end of this brutal war. Standing quietly amidst the ruins, the exhausted mage finally catches his breath. He closes his eyes with a deep sense of relief and satisfaction, believing that the world is finally safe from the terrifying demonic threat. Soon he returns home as a celebrated hero cheered by the kingdom. His journey leads him back to the peaceful orphanage where he grew up, arriving in a fancy carriage as the excited kids run to greet him. He turns around with a soft look upon hearing a familiar voice, revealing a cute little girl holding a teddy bear running toward him. Leon tells the little girl he has to head out for a bit. She happily agrees and begs him to teach her more magic when he returns, making his way to the royal castle next to meet with the kingdom's rulers, where the king enthusiastically welcomes our legendary hero alongside the crown prince. Bowing respectfully, Leon greets Prince Shark after their long time away from the battlefield. But a sudden familiar voice from behind catches our overpowered mage completely off guard, revealing Princess Sira, who has arrived with a bright smile on her face. This king boasts about summoning her from a neighboring country just to see him, leaving the princess blushing furiously as she admits she rushed over immediately. Chuckling at the warm welcome, Leon asks what urgent matter required his presence today, which prompts the king to explain that a mysterious monster-infested cave was recently discovered, shocking our protagonist since he believed the demonic threat was already completely wiped out. Since none of the scouts sent inside have ever returned, an investigation is desperately needed. Though the king laughs because he knows Leon can easily handle any threat, prompting the mage to realize he must protect this hard-won peace at all costs, especially to secure a bright and safe future for the sweet orphanage kids. He formally accepts the dangerous mission, bowing deeply to show his absolute loyalty. Suddenly, the king suggests that they discuss his marriage to Princess Sira right after, forcing Leon to laugh awkwardly while internally screaming that marriage is a massive leap, leaving the royals laughing heartily while our hero prepares for his next big dungeon raid. Prince Shark flashes a friendly smile, looking like the perfect reliable ally for this mission, and the king suggests staying at the castle tonight before heading out tomorrow morning. Bright and early the next day, Leon waits outside as his royal guide finally arrives, flanked by heavily armored guards to lead the way to this mysterious new dungeon. Shark politely expresses his excitement to work alongside the legendary hero on this investigation, prompting our protagonist to return the gesture with a firm and respectful handshake. Arriving at the massive mountain crevice, the prince points out the dark cave entrance, which immediately puts our overpowered mage on high alert as they prepare to step inside. Creepy dark roots and a strange purple mist fill the cavern, giving off a terrible vibe, making Leon wonder if this ominous energy is the real reason behind the missing scouts. But before he can even warn his companion to stay on guard in this place, a sharp blade suddenly pierces straight through our shocked hero's chest from behind, forcing him to his knees as he realizes the weapon was coated in deadly poison. Turning around in shock, he demands to know why the prince would betray him like this, only for Shark to reveal his insane jealousy over Leon's close relationship with Princess Sira. Though our protagonist angrily protests that he only cares about protecting the innocent orphanage children, this response only makes the treacherous prince let out a sickening twisted grin, before he bursts into maniacal laughter while downing a mysterious potion right in front of him, declaring with absolute malice that those precious orphanage kids are already completely gone, as he tosses down the burnt head of the little girl's favorite teddy bear. Shark admits he burned down the orphanage last night, casually crushing the burnt teddy bear under his boot, while wearing a sickening grin as he suggests they can all happily reunite in the afterlife, sending our betrayed protagonist into a state of absolute mind-numbing shock and despair. Screaming in pure rage, Leon tries to fight back, but the deadly poison has already paralyzed his body, allowing the treacherous prince to easily kick him off the cliff into the dark abyss below. Mockingly thanking the fallen hero of justice for all of his hard work, plunging into the darkness, our boy grits his teeth with a burning desire for absolute vengeance, until his eyes suddenly snap open as he crashes into a body of water. Gasping for air, he sits up in a glowing underground pool, completely shocked to still be breathing, though the memory of the prince's smug face immediately fuels his anger once again. Clenching his fist tightly, he swears a solemn oath that he will never forgive that royal traitor, before dragging his battered body out of the water and onto the cold cave floor, realizing he must find an exit from this massive, unfamiliar cavern as quickly as possible. But his escape plans are cut short when a terrifying skeletal wolf engulfed in purple flames emerges, prompting the weary mages to immediately charge up a powerful fireball to defend himself. He unleashes the destructive spell, completely obliterating the undead beast in a massive fiery explosion, standing calmly in the smoke as he expects the threat to be completely dealt with, only for a bizarre system window to pop up revealing a ridiculous million-kill secret quest, leaving him staring in absolute disbelief at the floating holographic screen in front of him, just as the skeletal monster instantly regenerates, signaling the start of a truly endless grind. Leon blasts another monster trying to make sense of this bizarre endless grind, only to realize the kill counter is actually tracking his progress toward 1,000,000, prompting our boy to prioritize finding a way out of this endless nightmare first. But his search takes a dark turn when he stumbles upon skeletal remains, realizing these unfortunate souls are the missing scouts who never made it back home. Dropping to his knees from sheer exhaustion, the weight of the situation hits him hard. Yet he refuses to let this creepy dungeon become his final resting place. Forcing himself back up, Leon spends his days slaying wave after wave of undead beasts, though a whole year passes with 10,000 kills and still no exit in sight. This only thing keeping our exhausted protagonist sane to this brutal, endless grind is his burning desire to make that treacherous prince pay for his unforgivable crimes. As the years roll by and his kill count reaches a staggering 100,000, this system suddenly rewards his dedication by granting him mysterious dark attribute magic, a sinister power he instantly recognizes as his ultimate ticket to absolute revenge. Fast forward a whole decade later and the cavern is practically paved with bones, revealing a much older, long-haired Leon who has fully mastered his dark new abilities, just as he finally lands his 1,000,000th kill to max out the quest, triggering a massive congratulatory system window that confirms his absolute hard-earned victory. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in his mind, begging him to defeat a new threat, before a massive, glowing golden gate swings open to reveal his path back to civilization. Leon's eyes snap open as he is engulfed in a bright, blinding flash of light, wondering what on earth is happening and if he will ever reach the surface. Floating in a pool of water, his body slowly drifts upward toward the light, only to look up and see a reflection of a completely different face staring back. He pulls himself out of the water, realizing he is in a modern school courtyard, completely bewildered as he looks around and tries to comprehend his new surroundings. Suddenly, a voice calls out, mocking him for still being conscious after a beating, revealing a group of smug school bullies led by a red-haired punk calling him Kirabane. Staring blankly, our protagonist wonders who these guys are and why they called him that, which only infuriates the red-haired bully who grits his teeth in absolute rage. This angry punk grabs him by the hair, demanding he wake up immediately. But our legendary mage is not about to let some schoolyard bully push him around. Wondering what this kid is doing, he decides to teach him a quick lesson, instantly channeling his water attribute magic to cast a defensive armor flood spell, unleashing a massive geyser of water that erupts violently from the fountain, sending the shocked red-haired bully flying backward onto the hard-tiled floor. Standing tall amidst the splashing water, the legendary mage looks completely unfazed, leaving the terrified bullies staring in absolute disbelief at his sudden display of power. Sweating profusely, the lead bully quickly backs down and calls for a hasty retreat, prompting our reincarnated hero to watch them run away while wondering what that was all about. A mysterious voice suddenly echoes in his mind, pointing out how much power he just unleashed. Looking up in confusion, Leon spots a glowing purple orb floating right in front of him. This strange light tells him to follow it to a more private spot to talk, prompting our bewildered protagonist to chase the mysterious floating orb up a flight of stairs. Once they reach a secluded area, the orb stops and declares they are finally safe, before it suddenly erupts in a blinding flash of light, forcing our hero to shield his eyes. Out of the magical glow emerges a tiny blue-haired girl floating gracefully in the air, who immediately tackles Leon in a tight hug while squealing with absolute joy. Holding the energetic kid at arm's length, he demands to know exactly who she is. Whereupon she politely introduces herself as Luna, a messenger sent directly from the goddess. Leon repeats her title in disbelief, waiting for a proper explanation of his current situation, only for Luna to drop a massive bombshell by revealing she is a guide for the dead. She explains that his original body actually died back in that dark, monster-infested cavern, leaving our protagonist to sit down and quietly process this wild, reality-bending revelation. Although Luna apologizes for the confusion, Leon reassures her that he has already organized his thoughts, but he still needs to know why the goddess chose to reincarnate him here. Suddenly, a massive pillar of emerald light erupts violently right next to them, revealing a colossal glowing green portal that towers over the entire school rooftop. Luna beams with excitement, inviting him to step forward so he can finally get his answers. While our legendary mage stares at the gateway, bracing himself for whatever comes next, Leon steps through the massive green gateway, bracing himself for whatever lies on the other side, only to find himself staring at a desolate red sky wasteland that looks straight out of a nightmare, where a massive heavy foot suddenly stomps down to reveal a terrifyingly familiar threat from his past. It is the Grand Saurus, a legendary beast protected by an incredibly durable honeycomb magic barrier, prompting our hero to remember how it took him 3 grueling days to defeat it before. Luckily, Luna is right there cheering him on, reminding him to use his newly acquired cheat code, referring to the overpowered dark attribute magic he unlocked during his decade of endless grinding. As the giant red dinosaur roars directly in his face, Leon remains completely calm and collected, channeling a massive vortex of dark energy that completely swallows up the surrounding battlefield. He thrusts his hand forward with glowing purple eyes, ready to unleash his ultimate spell, casting Deprivation of Blessings to instantly shatter the monster's supposedly unbreakable honeycomb barrier. Watching the defenses crumble in seconds, our overpowered mage prepares to deliver the final blow, trapping the giant beast's heavy limbs with pillars of dark energy shooting from the ground, before unleashing a devastating spell called Deadly Claws to slice right through its tough hide. This massive dinosaur screeches in agony as the dark slashes tear it apart in an instant, crashing heavily onto the dirt as a completely defeated pile of scales and bones. Luna immediately starts jumping up and down with joy, celebrating his ridiculously easy victory, while Leon stares at his hands in absolute disbelief over his own terrifying new power. Standing over his fallen foe, he realizes that 10 years of grinding really paid off. Though his hyperactive fairy guide is already floating around, completely unfazed by his insane strength. Annoyed by the lack of details, Leon calls out his tiny guide for leaving out crucial information, though he quickly calms down and reassures her that he finally understands the situation, asking if the terrifying demon King Belfar is also making his way to this new world. Luna enthusiastically confirms his suspicions, explaining that the massive Golden Gate was created by the demon's influence, warning him that leaving these portals unchecked will lead to the absolute destruction of this world. Our hero closes his eyes, realizing why the goddess chose him to act as this world's savior, but a sudden realization hits him as he ponders the connection to his past life. Spotting a nearby school flag, his eyes widen at the sight of a highly familiar royal crest. Realizing it matches the exact symbol worn by the treacherous prince who betrayed him a decade ago. Clenching his fist in absolute fury, Leon struggles to contain his burning desire for immediate revenge, while Luna senses someone approaching and quickly vanishes into a swirl of purple magical energy. Heavy footsteps echo across the stone rooftop, signaling the arrival of an unexpected visitor, prompting our reincarnated mage to turn around and face whoever is calling out to him. Standing before him is a stunning blue-eyed blonde girl wearing the school's elite student uniform, who politely asks for a moment of his time as she steps onto the rooftop. She directly asks if he noticed a massive magical gate appearing in the immediate area, causing Luna to telepathically warn him to play dumb and avoid getting dragged into trouble. Leon smoothly denies seeing anything, leaving the suspicious girl to wonder if her senses played tricks on her, until her eyes suddenly light up with recognition as she looks closer at his face, remembering him as the weak student who was getting bullied by those red-haired punks just moments ago. Bowing deeply, the blonde girl sincerely apologizes for not stepping in to help him sooner, explaining that she wanted to stop the bullies but simply did not notice them in time. Our boy tells her there is absolutely no need to apologize for something she did not do, quietly noting to himself that she seems like a remarkably upright and decent person. Since he claims to know nothing about the gate, she bids him farewell and heads back, prompting Luna to pop back out and praise the girl's impressive ability to sense magical energy. This hyperactive fairy immediately teases him about raising a romance flag like some dating game protagonist, but their playful banter quickly cuts short as night falls over the massive student dorms, where Leon arrives at his room only to find his door plastered with hateful sticky notes, while a group of nearby students snicker in the hallway, thoroughly enjoying his misery. Grabbing the handle, he realizes that the polite girl from earlier was definitely a rare exception, which absolutely infuriates Luna as she screams about how incredibly vulgar and cruel these people are. Looking around the messy room, she notes that the original owner of this body had it rough. Sitting down on his bed, Leon asked his guide what exactly is wrong with this academy, wondering if that treacherous prince also crossed over to this world alongside the Demon King. But the tiny fairy sheepishly admits that she does not know everything about this world. She explains that despite peeking in to guide him, she could not locate the prince anywhere, leaving our protagonist to deeply ponder his next move as he plans to investigate this mystery. For now, he decides to focus on learning how this academy works while keeping his vengeance burning. Soon enough, the morning sun shines through the window, signaling the start of a brand new day. Grabbing a pair of scissors, our hero decides it is time for a quick makeover, while Luna floats nearby, showering his sharp new haircut with endless enthusiastic compliments. To avoid drawing suspicion, he resolves to mimic the original owner's weak personality, blending into the crowd of students as he finally heads out for school. Even in a standard uniform, his legendary mage aura makes him stand out effortlessly, prompting him to quietly analyze the basic rules of this unfamiliar modern society. Apparently, mysterious gates began appearing years ago, introducing mana and awakening magical abilities, which led to humans hunting dangerous monsters to harvest their highly valuable resources, creating a massive surge of people striving to become elite hunters called Seekers. This prestigious academy exists solely to train those hopeful recruits for the front lines, but a sudden magical shout from outside instantly breaks Leon's train of thought. Down on the training field, the student council president unleashes a massive ice spell, earning a nod of approval from our protagonist, who recognizes her decent talent. Turning away from the window, he prepares to search for clues about the prince, only to be rudely interrupted by a highly familiar, incredibly annoying voice. This red-haired punk from yesterday is back, flanked by his usual smug lackeys, throwing his arm around Leon's shoulder to demand a quick errand run. Our hero just stares back blankly, casually suggesting the bully buy his own bread. An instant wave of absolute fury washes over the hot-headed punk's face. Unaware that the powerful student council president is standing right behind them, this hot-headed bully immediately launches a magic attack, aiming to teach our protagonist a painful lesson. But the student council president suddenly steps in to stop the unauthorized duel. Ignoring her warning, the punk unleashes a massive stone hammer spelled directly at them. Leon remains completely unfazed by the incoming boulder, quietly sighing at how annoying this is. Deciding to end this quickly, he prepares to tap into his dark attribute magic, which instantly manifests as a crackling purple barrier that shatters the incoming stone attack, casting a spell called Grim Eater to effortlessly consume the bully's offensive magic. This massive boulder is completely pulverized into dust, leaving no trace of the threat behind. As the dust settles, Leon stands calmly while his audience stares in absolute disbelief. Leaving the red-haired punk sweating profusely, completely unable to comprehend what just happened, our hero casually bids them farewell and walks away, ignoring the bully's desperate shouts, while the student council president watches him leave, deeply intrigued by his hidden power. Later that afternoon, Leon receives a threatening note demanding he show up at the training grounds. Luna suggests just ignoring the obvious trap, but Leon decides to face them head-on, explaining that he wants to eliminate any annoying hindrances to his peaceful school life. This hyperactive fairy immediately gets pumped for a fight, though Leon warns her to stay hidden. Under the bright moonlight, he arrives at the training field to find 3 bullies waiting, where the leader angrily demands to know how a weakling suddenly gained such monstrous strength, before waving his lackeys back to initiate a supposedly fair, one-on-one duel to the end. Leon's eyes glow with dangerous purple energy, accepting the challenge on one simple condition. This red-haired bully laughs hysterically, mocking Leon for how easily he used to tremble before, but our overpowered protagonist simply gestures for him to bring it on without wasting any more breath. Infuriated by this calm attitude, the hot-headed punk eagerly accepts the invitation to fight, though he immediately orders his 2 lackeys to jump in and ambush Leon instead. Both minions unleash their elemental magic simultaneously, aiming to crush our hero from both sides. While their cowardly leader cackles about lying about this being a fair one-on-one duel, Leon's glowing purple eyes narrow, completely unfazed because he fully expected this pathetic betrayal, raising his hand casually to activate his overpowered dark magic before the attacks can land. He casts a defensive spell called Denial Mirror to form a swirling purple barrier. This barrier instantly reflects the incoming elemental blasts directly back at the shocked attackers, sending the 2 cheating lackeys flying across the field from their own reflected power. Our protagonist leaves the red-haired bully completely frozen in absolute terror, unable to comprehend what just happened. Walking forward through the dust, Leon calmly warns them that he never falls for sneak attacks twice. A menacing flame of dark energy crackles in his palm to show he means business. Standing tall as a terrifying force of nature while his opponent trembles in the moonlight, which leaves the bully sweating profusely as he desperately tries to make sense of this power. Since he only knows the 4 basic elements, this dark purple energy is completely alien. Yet he still tries to mask his fear by pointing and calling our protagonist useless. Hearing that familiar insult, Leon's expression darkens as his eyes flash with pure, unadulterated rage, unleashing a massive, suffocating aura of dark magic to finally put this arrogant bully in his place. Choking on his own words, the terrified bully desperately tries to cast one last fire spell, but Leon easily bypasses his defenses, looming over him like an absolute shadow of doom, actively draining the punk's remaining mana with a single swipe of his dark magic. Completely dumbfounded by this overwhelming gap in power, the bully can only gasp in shock. As his vision quickly fades into darkness while his consciousness completely slips away, he collapses onto the hard stone floor, leaving our protagonist standing victorious in the quiet night. Floating back into view, Luna explains that stealing mana is the ultimate power of dark magic, which Leon appreciates since it means these annoying pests will not be bothering him anytime soon. But their peaceful moment is instantly shattered by a sudden, deafening siren echoing across the campus. Emergency speakers blare throughout the academy grounds, ordering an immediate evacuation for all students, announcing that a highly dangerous Category Red gate has suddenly manifested right on school territory, which represents the absolute highest threat level possible in this modern world. Inside the main building, doors fly open as chaos erupts throughout the hallways, prompting the student council president to take charge and direct everyone to safety. She boldly declares her plan to seal the gate herself, ignoring a frantic teacher's warnings, who screams that the headmaster strictly forbade anyone from engaging a Category Red threat. But the determined girl merely looks back with a cold, unwavering gaze, even as he reminds her of the devastating casualties caused by these gates in the past. To her, protecting people from these exact disasters is the sole purpose of their training. Leaving the helpless teacher behind as she heads out to face the danger alone, red-hot flames erupt as terrifying wolf monsters begin pouring out of the newly opened gate, sending the nearby students into an absolute panic as they desperately run for their lives. One cornered kid tries to defend himself by conjuring a spike of solid stone magic, but the beast easily crushes his defensive spell with its razor-sharp teeth in an instant. Screaming in absolute terror, the helpless student braces for the worst as the wolves close in, only for sharp icicles to suddenly rain down and impale the monsters right before his eyes, revealing that the powerful student council president has arrived just in time to save him. Her hands glowing with a brilliant blue light as she channels her high-tier ice magic, she calmly orders the trembling boy to evacuate immediately and find safety with the others. Watching him flee while noting that the dangerous gate is dangerously close to the city, realizing that if the monsters break past the academy, the casualties will be absolutely catastrophic. To prevent a disaster, she resolves to enter the portal and defeat the dungeon boss alone. Observing from a safe distance, Leon and Luna watch the brave girl disappear into the gate. Our protagonist turns to his fairy guide, quietly asking what must be done to seal it. Prompting Luna to explain that they need to take down the boss monster controlling the rift. Leon immediately prepares to jump in, but the tiny fairy quickly stops him with a warning, pointing out that his overpowered dark magic will drain his limited mana reserves incredibly fast. Yet our hero simply replies that he is not doing this to play the hero, leaving Luna completely speechless as she looks up at his surprisingly serious and determined face. He firmly declares that he simply cannot stand by and let such a devastating threat destroy everything. Floating alongside him, Luna cannot help but tease her master for being such a softie. But our hero simply prepares to leap, focusing his energy for the jump ahead, launching himself straight into the swirling portal with his hyperactive fairy guide right behind him. Meanwhile, deep inside the cavern, the student council president is already running completely out of breath. Realizing that soloing a Category Red dungeon is far more brutal than she ever anticipated, before she can even recover, a massive red serpent monster suddenly rises up from the shadows, leaving her completely wide open as she turns around to face the incoming lethal strike, only for a violent burst of purple dark magic to shred the beast in an instant. She watches in absolute stun as the terrifying threat is effortlessly neutralized right before her eyes. Her mind racing as she tries to comprehend the bizarre high-tier magic that saved her. Emerging from the dust, our overpowered protagonist stands tall with his hands still crackling with energy, prompting the shocked girl to instantly recognize him as the academy's supposedly weakest student. Stepping off the monster's corpse while she quickly thanks him for the incredibly timely rescue, which Leon casually brushes off, offering a calm smile while making sure she is not injured. Still, she demands to know what kind of bizarre magic he used and his true identity, though our hero smoothly deflects the interrogation to keep his secret power under wraps, pointing out that they have a much bigger problem to deal with right now. This catches her completely off guard as she processes his surprisingly mature and focused attitude. Quickly snapping back to reality, she agrees that sealing the gate must be their top priority. Yet as they move forward, she cannot help but wonder about the massive secrets he is hiding. This president recalls how Leon was ranked dead last in the Academy's mock battles, leaving her completely baffled by the monstrous power he just casually displayed in front of her. But there is no time to overthink as they sprint deeper into the fiery cavern, where a pack of aggressive lava wolves quickly surrounds them from all sides. Stepping up to show off her top-tier skills, the president unleashes a massive aqua prison, trapping the fiery beasts inside a swirling vortex of high-pressure water magic, which completely neutralizes their flames and leaves them suspended helplessly in midair. Leon quietly watches the display, highly impressed by the Academy's #1 student, though their brief moment of success is cut short as the cavern floor violently shatters, revealing a colossal stone cyclops that towers over our protagonist with crushing intent. This giant golem slams its massive fist down, but Leon effortlessly leaps out of harm's way, channeling his dark attribute magic into his palm to end this fight in a single move. He unleashes a spell called Blind Edge, sending sharp purple energy slicing through the air, which instantly shatters the massive stone monster into a pile of harmless rubble, leaving the president completely stunned by how perfectly he targeted the beast's weak point, realizing that his casting speed and precision are far beyond any normal student's capabilities. To her, he moves with the seasoned grace of a veteran who has fought for decades. Pushing forward to the cave, they finally spot a blinding light at the tunnel's exit, stealing their resolve as they prepare to face whatever nightmare is waiting outside, only to find a colossal red dragon ready to turn them both into ash. This president instantly panics upon realizing they're facing a legendary textbook-level lava dragon, but Leon calmly warns her about its deadly long-range fire and tail attacks, giving her zero time to process his sudden expertise before the beast roars, unleashing a colossal beam of pure, concentrated heat that threatens to incinerate them. Next comes a massive spiked tail whipping straight toward the distracted girl, forcing her to leap backward just as the heavy blow shatters the stone. Realizing Leon's prediction was entirely correct, she immediately channels her high-tier mana, launching a massive icicle lance to pierce straight through the monster's fiery defenses, only for her ultimate elemental counter to instantly melt against its intense heat. She stands completely frozen in disbelief as the sheer temperature nullifies her magic. Though our overpowered protagonist casually steps forward to show her how it is done, he unleashes a devastating spell called Deadly Claw, sending massive purple slashes forward, which easily tears through the dragon's wing and disrupts its fiery momentum. sending the giant beast reeling backward as it struggles to maintain its balance. Leon looks genuinely offended that the boss is trying to fly away to safety, while the president runs up to ask how they should handle this escape. Turning to her, our hero asks if she can cast any other elemental attributes, requesting that she use her magic to temporarily slow the flying beast down. Trusting his judgment completely, she agrees to leave the offensive strategy to him, instantly hovering into the air as she prepares to unleash her high-tier wind magic. Gathering her remaining mana, the president channels a massive swirl of high-tier wind magic, unleashing a powerful aerial blast that completely traps the flying dragon in a raging vortex, leaving the giant beast screeching in frustration as its fiery wings are temporarily pinned, which gives Luna the perfect opening to shout that the monster has stopped moving. Stepping forward with absolute confidence, our protagonist prepares to deliver the final, crushing blow, summoning a swarm of glowing purple butterflies as his dark attribute magic surges wildly. Casting his ultimate Abyss Ruler spell to completely envelop the massive beast in darkness. With a simple flick of his wrist, he commands the dark energy to detonate, triggering a violent explosion of purple magic that tears the legendary dragon apart, shielding the stunned president from the shockwave as the dust finally begins to settle. This colossal threat collapses onto the cavern floor, its wings shredded and its fire completely extinguished. Floating around in pure excitement, Luna cheers for her master while Leon just lets out a tired sigh, though the president can only stare in disbelief before quietly admitting that he actually succeeded, offering a warm smile while noting she has a million questions about his secret powers, but she decides to save the interrogation for later, shaking his hand to thank him instead. Suddenly, a warm light envelops them both as they are safely teleported back to the school grounds, where Leon notices that the remaining wolf monsters have already been cleared out by the academy, only for a cold, booming voice to suddenly call out the president's name from behind, demanding to know why she dared to blatantly disregard direct orders to evacuate the area, revealing the intimidating headmaster of the academy, Shido Atsushi, looking absolutely furious about their stunt. This intimidating headmaster blocks their path, demanding to know why President Zumiya disobeyed his direct orders. He glares down at them with absolute authority, completely unimpressed by their heroic dungeon raid, prompting Leon to quietly ask Luna who this arrogant guy in the fancy suit actually is. She explains that Shido Atsushi is the wealthy founder who built a massive fortune off this academy. Our protagonist immediately suspects this greedy headmaster might have shady connections to the villainous shark group, but he decides to keep quiet for now as Zumiya steps forward to apologize, explaining that they simply could not stand by and watch innocent students get torn apart by monsters. Yet the cold headmaster dismisses her justice, asking what would happen if they had failed. Leon suddenly speaks up to defend her, suggesting there are better words to describe her immense courage, which only infuriates Shido, who barks that a mere outsider has no right to speak here. Zumiya instantly snaps back, declaring that Leon is the sole reason they survived the Red Gate. This completely catches the headmaster off guard as he turns his gaze back to our hero, only to burst into hysterical laughter upon recognizing Leon as the academy's absolute worst-ranked student. Calling the claim utterly ridiculous, the arrogant man turns around and walks back to his luxury car, ignoring the president's desperate calls as he prepares to leave them to clean up the mess, warning her that making up such absurd jokes means she can handle the entire aftermath herself. His expensive car speeds away into the night, leaving the dude standing alone on the pavement. Leon watches him go with a cold glare, resolving to investigate Shido's potential criminal ties. Later that night, the quiet academy dorms finally settle down after a chaotic day of battles, allowing our exhausted hero and his tired fairy guide to finally relax back in their room. Luna is absolutely fuming over the headmaster's arrogance, complaining about how poorly everyone treats Kiribane Ren, while also sighing over how incredibly special the student council president seems to be. Leon ignores her ranting to focus on a mysterious notebook he found in their room, revealing that it is actually the personal diary of the body's original owner, Kiribane Ren. Reminding our hero of the day he first woke up in this exhausted kid's body. Flipping through the pages, both Leon and Luna read the tragic entries left behind, learning that Ren desperately wanted to become a seeker to pay for his sister's medical bills, only to be relentlessly mocked and looked down on by his classmates for lacking talent, enduring constant harassment and having his desk kicked over by arrogant bullies every single day, which turned his school life into an absolute living hell of endless physical abuse. This heartbreaking entry shows a boy crying in secret, completely broken by the constant torment, leaving behind tear-stained pages filled with nothing but pure frustration and helplessness. Closing the diary, Leon stands in silence as the tragic reality of Ren's life sinks in, prompting a worried Luna to quietly call out his name, sensing his rising anger. As he stares out the window into the dark, quiet night sky to clear his head, resolving to make every single bully pay dearly for what they did to this kid. Meanwhile, inside the headmaster's luxurious office, a very different kind of plotting is taking place, where the corrupt Shido Atsushi sits back with a cigar, reviewing the academy's student records, scoffing at Ren's abysmal magic scores and wondering how a failure dared to talk back to him. Smiling maliciously as he decides that expelling our protagonist will be his next move, taking a hot shower to wash off the grime from the intense dungeon battle. She cannot stop thinking about Leon's impossible, monstrous power that defies his effing status, grabbing her towel as she resolves to uncover the truth behind his hidden identity, convinced that there is a massive secret he is actively hiding from everyone. This next morning, the sun rises over the prestigious academy grounds as classes resume, only for a student council member to suddenly corner Leon on his way up the stairs. This arrogant guy is Naro Shuya, the student council's highly pretentious vice president, who immediately confronts our hero about his suspicious return from the dangerous Red Gate, accusing Leon of being a greedy opportunist who sneaked inside just to steal valuable loot. He sneers that a talentless loser should not drag down the president with pathetic lies, prompting a furious Luna to scream insults while Leon calmly explains he was helping. But the smug vice president scoffs, refusing to believe a word from a known failure. Their tense conversation is suddenly cut short when President Zumiya herself walks up behind them, announcing to the shocked vice president that she was actually looking for Leon. Realizing he has lost his audience, Shuya dismisses them and tells Leon to stay quiet, reminding the president about their upcoming meeting before walking away with his head high. Turning to our hero, she worriedly asks if the annoying vice president gave him trouble, though Leon casually brushes it off before asking why she was searching for him. She reveals that the corrupt headmaster has summoned him to his office immediately, where the greedy old man smugly orders our protagonist to drop out of the academy. President Zumiya instantly panics, demanding to know why the corrupt headmaster is suddenly expelling Leon. But Shidu casually tosses Leon's abysmal student records onto the desk with a smug sneer, declaring that talentless failures have absolutely no future in this prestigious magic academy. Instead of backing down, our protagonist calmly asks if he just needs to prove his strength, proposing a high-stakes deal to win every single upcoming mock battle to cancel his expulsion. This greedy headmaster is completely taken aback by this F-rank kid's sheer audacity, looking down at the official schedule to see who Leon is supposed to fight, which reveals his final opponent is none other than the elite second-ranked vice president. Believing the match is an absolute death sentence, Shidu smugly accepts the reckless wager, while Leon flashes a confident smirk, knowing he is about to shock the entire school. Later that night, the quiet student dorms finally settle down under a dark sky. Inside their room, a shocked Luna stares wide-eyed at the impossible tournament lineup, though Leon remains completely unfazed by the massive target painted on his back. Meanwhile, a flashback reveals the president chasing after our hero in the school hallway, desperately begging him to take back his words before he gets himself permanently expelled, warning him that the pretentious vice president is a highly skilled and dangerous opponent. Yet Leon simply smiles, thanking her for showing genuine concern for his well-being, before walking away with a cold glare, fully prepared to show everyone his true power. Back in the present, Luna wonders why he even bothers staying at this annoying academy. But Leon explains that remaining a student is the perfect cover to hunt down the Shark Syndicate. Leon ponders if there is a direct connection between the corrupt headmaster and the villainous shark, but Luna quickly shoots down the theory that the headmaster is actually possessed by their enemy. She explains that her fairy senses would easily detect any dimensional entities lurking around the school, leaving our hero to conclude they just need to keep clearing gates and hunting their targets. Though he suddenly notices his tiny guide looking incredibly downcast and full of worry, this little fairy admits she feels deeply guilty for dragging him into such a dangerous, heavy burden. However, Leon immediately reassures her, telling her that he is actually quite grateful for this chance, since this second life allows him to finally get revenge and save this new world. Looking back at her with a gentle expression, he tells her to stop apologizing, which completely warms the fairy's heart as she stares up at her incredibly kind master. She silently celebrates, feeling absolutely blessed that he was the one chosen by the goddess. Deciding it is time to turn in, our protagonist prepares to rest up for tomorrow's big match, prompting Luna to fly around the room, hyped to show the corrupt headmaster his true power, hoping with all her heart that her master's deepest wishes will eventually come true. This next morning, a massive crowd gathers at the Academy Stadium as the mock battles begin, where Leon's first opponent smugly laughs, thrilled to face the school's most famous F-rank loser. Arrogant students in the stands mock our hero, loudly telling his opponent to take it easy. Yet Leon remains completely unfazed by their insults, letting out a quiet, calm breath. And as the starting whistle blows, the overconfident bully immediately charges forward with green magic, unleashing a massive wind slash to end the match in a single devastating blow. A massive cloud of dust and wind erupts across the arena floor, leaving the overconfident opponent looking around in complete confusion as he searches for his target, only for Leon to suddenly materialize right behind him with a calm, mocking whisper, instantly unleashing a devastating earth magic rock blast that sends the bully flying through the air, which leaves the referee completely speechless before he finally declares our hero the undisputed winner. Whispers immediately ripple through the crowd as the shocked spectators realize a failure just beat a ranked student, while President Zumiya watches from the stands with a knowing, highly satisfied smile on her face. Even the pretentious vice president is forced to acknowledge Leon's impossibly fast magic activation speed. Sitting high above the stadium, Luna happily notes that her master did not even need his dark magic. eagerly anticipating the moment the entire academy finally wakes up to his true, monstrous power. This tournament continues as Leon effortlessly sweeps through his next opponent with another single, crushing blow, leaving a trail of defeated bullies in his wake as the announcer repeatedly calls out his name, proving to everyone that his initial victory was absolutely not a fluke as he advances further. Meanwhile, the corrupt headmaster stares at the tournament updates in his office, sweating with pure disbelief, desperately trying to deny the terrifying possibility that this F-rank kid actually cleared the red gate. A sudden knock at the door interrupts his frantic thoughts, prompting him to coldly call out for them to enter, revealing the pretentious Vice President Shuya stepping inside to answer his urgent, unexpected summons, where Shiru quickly briefs him on his upcoming match against the rapidly rising Kiribane Ren. This greedy old man strictly orders his top student to fight at absolute full strength without any carelessness, but Shuya's serious glare reveals he already knows there is no room for error against this monster. Shuya studies Ren's previous mock battles, noting that the kid only relied on basic earth magic, boasting to the corrupt headmaster that this F-rank failure is still absolutely no match for him, which immediately brings a smug malicious grin back to the greedy old man's face. Stepping out of the headmaster's office to prepare for the highly anticipated final match, this vice president wonders why the boss is being so cautious about a historically talentless loser, confidently reassuring himself that there is absolutely no way he could ever lose to him. Meanwhile, the stadium speakers blare as our hero effortlessly secures yet another flawless victory, leaving the spectators completely stunned by his sudden, impossible rise through the ranks. Taking a quick breather, Leon notes that his plan is going perfectly so far, just as the beautiful student council president approaches him to offer a refreshing drink. She happily encourages him, pointing out that he is incredibly close to canceling his expulsion, while the arrogant vice president glares from the shadows, completely annoyed by their closeness. Soon enough, the announcer calls both fighters to step forward for the final showdown. This elite opponent immediately warns our protagonist not to get cocky over a few easy wins, but Leon casually replies that he is just here to get the job done. When asked if he actually expects to win, our hero confidently confirms his intentions, prompting the pretentious vice president to let out a highly condescending, quiet chuckle. He unleashes a menacing aura, promising to make Leon deeply regret his sheer audacity. As the president, Luna, and the headmaster watch from the stands with bated breath, and with both fighters locked in a tense stare down, the starting signal finally rings out. This final match begins as both fighters face off under the glowing sunset sky, with Shuya immediately questioning how an F-rank loser could suddenly experience such a massive awakening, suspecting that Leon purposely hid his strength just to show off with consecutive wins. Determined to expose our hero, the arrogant vice president prepares to tear off his mask, instantly channeling his high-ranked wind magic to form a glowing bow of pure lightning, aiming his deadly weapon directly at our protagonist with absolute confidence in his victory. A massive bolt of lightning tears through the arena, rushing straight toward Leon's position. Yet our hero calmly drops to one knee and taps into his earth magic, summoning a massive clay wall that erupts from the ground to shield him, which completely absorbs the devastating impact of the vice president's signature high-rank attack. As the dust clears, Shuya stands frozen in disbelief that his lightning was blocked, while the spectators erupt into loud murmurs, shocked that a failure stopped such elite magic. Trying to regain his composure, the vice president reminds himself that Leon only uses earth magic, prompting him to immediately launch a counterattack to crush our hero's defenses once and for all. He manipulates the surrounding earth to summon massive boulders hovering high in the air, clenching his fist to unleash a relentless barrage of heavy stones upon his opponent. This devastating rock shower rains down, threatening to bury our protagonist under a mountain of stone. But Leon simply looks up with a bored expression, gathering green wind magic in his palm, unleashing a massive aerial blast that creates a violent tornado to obliterate the falling rocks. This shattered debris scatters harmlessly across the stage, leaving a stunned Shuya completely at his mercy. Shuya stands frozen in absolute shock, unable to comprehend how an F-rank loser just used wind magic, while the entire stadium erupts into wild cheers as the crowd witnesses another impossible counter, leaving the spectators whispering in disbelief about Leon suddenly wielding a completely different magic attribute, since normal mages are strictly limited to mastering only one element throughout their entire lives. Mastering even a single attribute takes years of grueling training, making Leon's dual-element mastery completely absurd, and President Zumiya can only watch in stunned silence as she clutches her hands together, quietly admitting to herself that our protagonist's true power is completely beyond human comprehension. Gritting his teeth, the arrogant vice president demands to know how Leon can use anything besides earth magic. But our hero calmly replies that Shuya is simply looking down on everyone else way too much. This blunt call-out instantly strikes a nerve, making the pretentious elite glare back with pure rage, as Leon casually lectures him on his sheer arrogance, carelessness, and terrible attitude on the battlefield, which only serves to infuriate the vice president even further as his pride is utterly shattered. Clenching his fist in a silent rage, Shuya warns the upstart kid not to get ahead of himself, declaring that the only person in this entire academy he actually respects is President Zumiya. He channels his mana, determined to reach the absolute peak of magic just to stand by her side, warning Leon that a talentless failure could never hope to be his equal in this lifetime, instantly unleashing a massive surge of swirling blue energy that completely envelops his entire body. This crowd gasps in awe as they recognize the vice president's signature high-rank water attribute magic, prompting Shuya to thrust his hand forward to unleash a devastating torrent to end the match. Yet Leon remains completely unfazed as the freezing water magic begins to crystallize right beneath his feet. Shuya unleashes his ultimate freezing spell, summoning a massive pillar of absolute zero energy, confidently believing that neither wind nor earth magic could ever hope to block this attack. As a giant ice crystal completely encases our hero, the arrogant elite celebrates his guaranteed victory. But a sudden, massive burst of intense fire magic erupts from deep within the frozen prison, leaving the vice president sweating in pure disbelief as his ultimate move instantly fails. This ice shatters into a million pieces as Leon easily melts his way out, standing completely unharmed amidst a swirling vortex of blazing hot flames that terrifies his opponent, who can only stare in absolute horror at the realization that Leon wields 3 different elements. Our protagonist casually smiles, mockingly pointing out that he is not limited to just 3 attributes, instantly summoning a massive block of ice in the sky to rain down sharp icicles, which he controls with a simple, effortless clench of his fist. A relentless barrage of frozen daggers completely saturates the entire arena floor. This devastating ice storm relentlessly bombards the vice president, who desperately tries to shield himself, realizing with absolute dread that his opponent actually possesses a mind-blowing 4 attributes. This freezing onslaught completely traps the elite student, pinning him down in a frozen wasteland, shattering his pride along with his glasses as he stares at his own total defeat, falling straight to his knees as the icy magic completely saps the rest of his strength. Groveling on the shattered arena floor, the beaten bully looks up to see Leon calmly approaching him, where our hero looks down with a cold expression, offering a final word of advice, telling him to stop being so arrogant and focus on what he actually needs to accomplish, remembering a past warning about how some things will always remain far beyond his reach. Shuya grovels on the floor, completely unable to comprehend what kind of monster he just fought, before he finally collapses backward onto the shattered arena floor in total, humiliating defeat. Our hero quietly turns away, reminding himself that he still has a massive mission to complete, while the referee officially declares Leon the undisputed winner of this highly anticipated final match. Later that night, a tense silence hangs over the academy grounds under the crescent moon. Inside the headmaster's office, where Shidu slams his fist down in a fit of absolute rage, desperately trying to deny the terrifying truth that Leon actually wields 4 different magical attributes. He recalls the president's warning that our protagonist was the sole reason they survived the Red Gate, narrowing his eyes as he realizes his entire plan is starting to completely fall apart, prompting the corrupt old man to suddenly stand up from his desk with pure malice, dialing a secret contact on his phone while cursing our hero's name with every breath, swearing to get Leon expelled by any means necessary as he burns his student profile. Meanwhile, back in the dorms, Luna happily sleeps while her master sits quietly at his desk, noting that securing this victory successfully forced the corrupt administration to revoke his unfair expulsion. Studying his notebook, he maps out the suspicious connections between the headmaster and the Demon King, wanting to interrogate Shidu directly, only to find out the old man has conveniently fled, which leaves our protagonist with no choice but to focus on his absolute top priority: closing the mysterious gates to lure the Demon King's hidden accomplices straight out of hiding, looking out into the night sky as he eagerly wonders who his first target will be. Back in the classroom, Leon sits quietly as the door suddenly slides open, and a brand new instructor casually strolls inside to address the whispering students, instantly catching our hero's attention as he immediately recognizes the man's familiar face. This new teacher introduces himself as Hashiba Keisuke while writing on the board, flashing a warm, friendly smile that immediately wins over the entire room. Naturally, the girls are already swooning over how handsome and nice he seems, but Leon just stares back with a highly suspicious and calculating glare. Later at lunch, the cafeteria is absolutely buzzing with gossip about the mock battle, with everyone losing their minds over how easily Leon crushed the academy's 2nd rank. Some students even joke about asking the newly crowned legend for magic lessons, when a sudden voice interrupts Leon's quiet meal to ask for a seat, revealing the beautiful student council president holding her lunch tray with a smile. She sets her food down while warmly praising his incredible performance yesterday, calling it a spectacular fight as she sits directly across from our protagonist, before sincerely thanking him for helping the arrogant vice president find his path. Apparently, those harsh words actually managed to get through to the defeated Shuya, though she admits she still cannot forgive the headmaster's completely unreasonable behavior, explaining that the former seeker has recently been tied to some incredibly shady connections. This piece of information immediately triggers Leon's curiosity as he ponders the lid, just as the overhead monitors suddenly flicker to life to broadcast the next news. This news broadcast warns that mysterious gates have been popping up with alarming frequency lately, prompting a strict warning for ordinary citizens to stay far away from these danger zones, since leaving them unchecked means bloodthirsty monsters will eventually overrun and destroy their entire world. unleashing hordes of vicious beasts to tear through society without a single shred of mercy. Our hero narrows his eyes, absolutely refusing to let these dimensional threats ruin his peaceful life, so he quietly asks President Zumiya to investigate the corrupt headmaster's suspicious connections. Later that night, his footsteps echo through the empty city streets under the cover of darkness, as he begins his nightly patrol alongside his loyal little familiar to hunt down active gates, earning him some adorable praise from Luna for secretly protecting the city like a silent guardian. Right on cue, a vibrant green gate suddenly materializes directly in front of the duo, prompting our protagonist to confidently step through the swirling portal without a single second of hesitation, only to find themselves transported into a completely different realm filled with eerie magical energy. They look around a dense, shadowy forest where visibility is dangerously low, passing by the decaying corpses of defeated monsters that litter the damp ground. Eventually reaching the deepest part of the dungeon where the boss should be waiting, but the little familiar is completely baffled to find the clearing entirely empty, until Leon suddenly senses a terrifying presence and turns around in absolute shock. A massive, shadowy clawed hand reaches out from the darkness to snatch the helpless girl, pulling her high into the air as she lets out a terrified scream of panic. Leaving our helpless hero staring up in horror as his precious companion is suddenly kidnapped. This grotesque gargoyle opens its massive maw, ready to swallow the terrified little familiar whole, prompting Luna to let out a deafening shriek that echoes through the dark forest, as she frantically kicks her legs, desperately reminding the beast she is definitely not food. Spotting his companion trapped high up in the branches, Leon commands her to stay completely still, instantly channeling a sinister purple aura to unleash his fifth element, dark attribute magic. Swarms of shadowy energy spikes shoot upward, tearing through the night sky with lethal precision, homing directly onto the flying beast while carefully avoiding the hostage in its grasp. A devastating dark claw slash completely shreds the monster's defenses in a blinding flash, forcing the creature to drop the little girl as the dark magic obliterates its wings. This defeated gargoyle crashes heavily onto the forest floor, completely neutralized by the overwhelming attack. Catching his falling companion with effortless ease, our hero warmly reassures her that everything is fine, leaving the amazed familiar to wonder how he could possibly cast such high-tier magic so quickly. He casually explains that surviving the depths of hell means reacting to surprise attacks is pure instinct, which only makes the adorable girl admire her overpowered master even more. Together, they watch the green gate dissolve, successfully preventing any monsters from escaping into the city. Just as Leon relaxes and assumes their nightly patrol is finally over, a sudden barrage of glowing golden crystal spears rains down from the sky, forcing our protagonist to swiftly leap backward to dodge the explosive crystal ambush. Narrowing his eyes, our hero glares upward with absolute irritation at this uninvited guest, spotting a mysterious silhouette standing on a nearby rooftop, waiting to start the real fight. This masked assassin is genuinely surprised that his target managed to detect his sudden ambush, realizing this hunt might actually turn out to be a lot more entertaining than expected. Sensing the danger, Leon immediately orders Luna to find a safe place to hide, before looking up at the rooftop to demand who this mysterious attacker is. Refusing to answer, the cloaked assassin simply scoffs while channeling a massive surge of fire, unleashing a colossal wave of blazing flames to incinerate our hero on the spot. Our protagonist swiftly leaps backward, narrowly dodging the scorching heat as the ground explodes, but the assassin is already preparing his next move with a smug grin. A relentless barrage of giant fireballs rains down, completely trapping Leon in their explosive path, leaving the attacker confidently believing that he has finally secured an easy kill, until our hero calmly whispers the name of his dark attribute magic. Instantly, a massive void of dark energy called Grim Eater swallows the flames whole, shattering the assassin's confidence as Leon stands there without a single scratch, utterly unable to comprehend what kind of bizarre magic he is even witnessing. With a cold glare, our protagonist declares that his opponent will not escape, summoning a massive, shadowy claw that tears through the air with terrifying speed. This devastating dark spell collides directly with the rooftop, breaking the assassin's defenses, slicing deep into his arm and forcing him to gasp in sudden pain. Realizing with absolute dread that his target possesses a completely different set of attributes, knowing he is completely outmatched, the wounded assassin deploys a smokescreen to escape. Leon stares up at the dissipating smoke, realizing his mysterious attacker has already slipped away, while Luna hovers nearby to anxiously check if her master sustained any injuries during the clash, leaving the duo standing alone on the quiet street as the cold night wind blows past. Back in the safety of their dorm room, the little familiar wonders who could have targeted them, prompting our hero to explain that it is still far too early to make any definitive guesses, though he suspects this assassin might have a direct connection to someone inside the academy itself. Sitting by the window, Leon silently vows to squeeze every bit of information out of his next target, and the very next morning he finds himself sitting quietly in class during another routine lecture. Watching the new instructor write on the chalkboard, our protagonist keeps his guard up and remains highly suspicious, when the teacher suddenly calls out his name in the hallway after the lesson finally ends. This friendly new instructor mentions hearing rumors about Leon soloing a dangerous Category Red gate, adding that while the corrupt headmaster refused to believe it, he has a completely different opinion. Admitting that watching our hero dominate the recent mock battle proved his incredible power is real. Flashing a warm smile, the teacher seems like a perfectly supportive ally on the surface, patting Leon on the shoulder while encouraging him to keep up the spectacular work in the future. But as our protagonist walks away, the man's eyes glow with a deeply unsettling and sinister glare. Later that night, the masked assassin watches from the shadows as Leon enters another glowing green gate. Clutching his bandaged arm while burning with a desperate desire to avenge his previous humiliating defeat, perched high above the street, the hunter promises himself that he will not make the same mistake twice, pulling out a communication device to coordinate a deadly trap that our hero will never see coming. Leon calmly steps out of the swirling green portal, completely unharmed and ready for action, which absolutely stuns the hidden assassin who cannot believe the gate was cleared so quickly. But the masked hunter quickly recovers his composure and activates a deadly detonator, triggering a massive pre-planned magical explosion right where our hero is currently standing. Unleashing a wave of fire magic, the attacker watches the flames consume the area, creating a devastating blast that completely engulfs the entire street in a blinding flash. Believing his target is finally finished, the arrogant assassin laughs mockingly at the easy victory, before speaking into his radio to order his subordinates to go confirm the kill, only to hear a sudden scream of pure terror cut off the transmission. Whipping his head around, the hunter senses a chilling presence right behind him, utterly unable to comprehend how anyone could have possibly survived that massive blast. Though he desperately tries to reassure himself that his hiding spot is still secure, until Leon casually steps out of the shadows to greet him face to face. Our hero explains that his little familiar was busy scouting the rooftops for suspicious activity, instantly launching a swift wind slash that tears through the air with blinding speed, completely shredding the assassin's hood to reveal his true identity underneath. Exposing the shocked face of their brand new academy instructor Hashiba Keisuke on the spot, he points out that the teacher foolishly used a different arm during today's lecture, proving he was nursing the exact injury sustained during their previous rooftop clash, and thanks to the president's investigation, his secret past as a former seeker is finally revealed. Leon reveals he knows Keisuke's signature homing magic, completely cornering the trembling instructor. Pointing a finger directly at the exposed assassin to seal his fate on this quiet rooftop, as our hero coldly asks if the man has finally found his resolve, Keisuke stumbles backward in absolute disbelief, staring up at the student who completely outsmarted him, while Leon demands to know the real reason behind these relentless assassination attempts. Instead of begging for mercy, the corrupt teacher simply lets out a low, sinister chuckle, bursting into maniacal laughter while mockingly praising our protagonist for solving the mystery, before his expression turns incredibly dark with a sudden surge of murderous intent. Unleashing a massive wave of blazing fire, Keisuke warns the kid not to get ahead of himself, sending a barrage of explosive fireballs raining down to incinerate the entire area, confidently declaring that his target has absolutely nowhere left to run this time. This arrogant instructor boasts about slaughtering thousands of monsters with this exact high-tier spell, commanding Leon to disappear without leaving even a single trace behind in the ashes. But our overpowered protagonist stands perfectly still inside the raging vortex, completely unfazed. With a calm smirk, he quietly mentions that he actually knows this magic all too well, raising his hand to effortlessly channel a massive concentration of his own fire attribute mana. Keisuke's jaw drops in absolute horror as he realizes what his target is about to do, utterly unable to comprehend how a mere student could possess such high-level elemental magic, with Leon unleashing a colossal pillar of flames called Crimson Blaze to counter the attack, creating a massive blinding explosion that completely swallows the corrupt teacher's fire whole. This massive clash of flames erupts, completely swallowing the rooftop in a blinding inferno, leaving Keisuke utterly terrified as he realizes his opponent just unleashed top-tier fire magic. But Leon casually smirks and reveals that was actually just a basic intermediate rank spell. This shocking revelation completely shatters the corrupt instructor's sanity as cold sweat pours down, prompting the desperate assassin to lunge forward while screaming at our hero to stop mocking him. Though Leon simply walks forward while asking about Keisuke's boast of slaying 1,000 monsters, coldly declaring that he has personally slaughtered over 100,000 beasts during his hellish journey. Instantly, our protagonist lunges forward and grabs the trembling teacher by the throat with dark energy, lifting him high into the air as terrifying purple flames wrap around his helpless body. Keisuke gasps in absolute horror, realizing this bizarre dark magic is rapidly draining his very life force, letting out a pathetic scream of agony as the overwhelming power completely paralyzes his nervous system, before crashing heavily onto the cold concrete, utterly unable to move even a single muscle. While Luna flies over to cheer for her master, who notes his job is not quite finished yet. Kneeling down, Leon forcefully grabs the defeated assassin by the chin to begin his interrogation, demanding to know if the corrupt headmaster Shido was the mastermind who ordered this hit. This teacher's sudden gasp of pure shock instantly confirms our hero's dark suspicions without a word, forcing the terrified man to blabber that he was only following orders to eliminate gate closers. which makes our protagonist realize that these open portals are crucial to the enemy's grand plan, confirming that Shido is definitely working with the demon Belfar despite running an academy for wizards, leaving Leon to contemplate his next move, knowing the headmaster is the key to everything. Keisuke grumbles that even if he talks, the corrupt headmaster will just pretend to know absolutely nothing, leaving the defeated assassin tied up tightly in a dark room to await his inevitable fate, while Leon stands outside in the pouring rain, hoping this move forces his enemy to act rashly, which is exactly the kind of desperate mistake our overpowered protagonist is currently counting on. Walking away into the cold night while silently swearing to expose the mastermind behind this entire plot. Meanwhile, a luxury car pulls up to a massive, heavily guarded mansion in the middle of the storm, as lightning crackles violently across the dark sky, illuminating the ominous residence of the corrupt headmaster, where a mysterious guest knocks on the Grand Lionhead door to announce his late-night arrival. Stepping inside the chillingly quiet hallway while feeling an incredibly heavy and suffocating atmosphere, revealing the visitor is actually the Academy's headmaster Shido, who secretly despises this terrifying place. He knocks politely on the office door before a cold voice from within commands him to enter, prompting the corrupt administrator to bow deeply as he steps inside to meet his mysterious benefactor. Swirling a glass of red wine, the shadowy host demands to hear the latest progress report, so Shido quickly explains the current situation while standing obediently before the fireplace like a servant. This master listens quietly before asking if there are any other notable changes in the academy, taking a slow sip of wine while bringing up a highly unusual anomaly that caught his attention, pointing out a specific student who suddenly started showing incredible results as if he became someone else, especially since this supposedly weak kid can now effortlessly manipulate 4 entirely different magical attributes. This intriguing news elicits a low, amused chuckle from the mysterious entity sitting in the shadows, but Shido confidently smiles, assuring his master that an assassin has already been sent to eliminate Leon. This mysterious master stops Shido mid-sentence, expressing a sudden interest in hearing more about this unusual student. Standing by the window as lightning flashes, finding the tale of Leon's sudden rise highly intriguing, especially since a supposedly weak kid is now displaying such overwhelming talent out of nowhere. Shido nervously points out that this unexpected variable could easily ruin all of their carefully laid plans, quickly reassuring his master that the assassin sent to eliminate the boy has likely finished the job. But the shadowy host remains entirely unconvinced, turning around with a chilling glare in his eyes. He coldly asks why the hired killer has not bothered to check in after all this time, prompting the panicked headmaster to immediately pull out his phone to confirm the status of the mission. While miles away, the defeated instructor remains tied up tightly in a dark, quiet room, completely unable to answer as his phone screen repeatedly flashes with the headmaster's incoming call. Listening to the endless ringing, Shido breaks into a cold sweat as a terrible realization hits him, with his master calmly concluding that the assassination attempt was a complete and utter failure. This corrupt administrator grits his teeth in frustration, wondering how a mere student defeated another elite hunter. Though the shadowy mastermind smoothly suggests they still have one highly effective option left on the table, walking over to a decorative chest, the host muses that if Leon is truly such a powerful wizard, they can simply use the rest of the academy's students as helpless bait to trap him, which instantly brings a sinister, greedy smile back to the corrupt headmaster's face. This greedy administrator eagerly catches a small object tossed across the room by his mysterious benefactor, revealing a dark, glowing ring meant to force their twisted experiment into its next deadly phase, leaving the wicked headmaster grinning maliciously as he prepares to unleash a brand new nightmare upon the academy. Shido eagerly accepts the task, boasting that gathering so many wizards was always part of his plan, while his mysterious benefactor watches from the shadows, swirling a glass of wine in his quiet office. This dark mastermind notes that things are finally about to get interesting as the fireplace flares up, sensing a sinister presence within the flames that seems to match his own wicked mood, smiling as he prepares to unleash the devastating power of the mysterious Black Gate. His low, chilling laughter echoes through the dark room, signaling the start of a massive disaster. On the very next day, Shido unexpectedly calls Leon into his office to offer a sudden apology, claiming he made a massive mistake regarding the student's true power and potential, though our protagonist remains completely silent, instantly sensing the blatant trap behind this fake kindness. Pointing out that dangerous portals are appearing much more frequently around the city, Shido explains that he wants Leon to accompany the student president on a special gate-closing mission, which would conveniently force our hero to patrol isolated areas far away from safety. This corrupt headmaster smiles warmly while offering a handshake to seal their new agreement, prompting Leon to readily accept the offer with a polite nod of his head, but he secretly resolves to play along just to see what his enemy is planning, quietly channeling a subtle trace of his own dark magic during the brief physical contact, planting a hidden tracking curse directly onto the unsuspecting headmaster's hand to monitor his moves. Later on the rooftop, Leon meets up with Izumiya to warn her about the obvious trap, revealing that Shido was definitely the mastermind who ordered their instructor to assassinate him, and declaring that he is fully prepared to turn this deadly setup right back against them. Izumiya argues that he should have rejected the headmaster's suspicious request right from the start, but Leon calmly explains that they cannot simply ignore active gates, revealing he has a plan. Though this dangerous strategy is designed solely for him to handle the entire patrol alone. Suddenly, the student president interrupts by firmly declaring that she is coming along too, refusing to stand idly by while her classmate walks straight into an obvious trap. With Luna teasingly noting the girl's stubbornness, our protagonist reluctantly agrees to let her join, leading the duo to begin their patrol as the evening sun paints the city orange. As Leon admits he cannot sense any active portals in the immediate area just yet, walking through the quiet streets he quietly asks if she ever feels afraid of the monsters, prompting Izumiya to admit that she definitely feels fear just like anyone else, yet she remains determined to stand her ground and protect their world from these threats. Hearing her resolve, our overpowered protagonist is instantly taken back to his own past life. Watching her explain that this noble duty is why she chose to become a wizard, which perfectly mirrors the exact mindset he had before embarking on his quest to slay the Demon King. Staring at his companion, Leon feels a sudden wave of respect for her pure determination, especially when she softly adds that being by his side gives her the strength to fight. But their peaceful moment is violently shattered as a massive, ominous red portal erupts right behind her, catching our hero completely off guard as a sudden surge of dark energy explodes outward, leaving the terrified student president utterly helpless as the wicked trap is instantly sprung, wrapping her body in violent black coils of mana to drag her into the terrifying abyss. Izumiya gasps in pain as the dark portal violently drags her into its swirling depths, prompting Leon to desperately reach out while shouting her name in pure shock. But the sinister vortex completely swallows her before he can even make physical contact, leaving our protagonist to shudder under the overwhelming pressure of a legendary black gate. Clenching his fist, he resolves to dive straight into the abyss to save his classmate. While back at the control room, the corrupt headmaster watches the entire scene unfold, chuckling maliciously as he prepares to activate the next phase of his wicked experiment. He stares at the screen, eager to see how our overpowered hero handles this trap, confident that the perfect bait has finally been set to lure him to his doom. Meanwhile, his mysterious benefactor relaxes by the fireplace, pleased that everything is going according to plan, noting that the terrifying boss of this gate specifically preys on wizards with massive mana. Back at the portal, Leon stands firm as the dark energy continues to swirl violently. But Luna quickly flies over to stop him, warning her master about the extreme danger. She points out that this portal is far more dangerous than any standard red gate, though our clever protagonist already realizes the timing of this spawn is far too convenient, deducing that Shiru deliberately conjured this nightmare specifically to trap them both inside. Despite the obvious trap, he refuses to back down when a life is on the line. Yet before he can leap in, Luna suddenly gasps and points toward the portal. A swarm of winged red drakes begins pouring out of the gate to attack the city, forcing our hero to deal with these flying beasts before he can rescue his friend. Just as the flying drakes swoop down, a sudden flash of lightning intercepts their deadly trajectory, revealing a familiar glasses-wearing instructor who stands ready with a crackling blade of pure energy, demanding that Leon quickly explain exactly what happened to cause such a massive disaster, only to gasp in absolute horror upon learning that the student president was dragged inside. With more winged beasts pouring from the portal, they realize the immediate threat must be neutralized. But the brave instructor steps forward, insisting on holding the line by himself, prompting our grateful protagonist to offer a quick apology before preparing to make his move. Turning on his heel, Leon dashes straight toward the swirling vortex without a single moment's hesitation, while his ally watches him go, quietly admitting that he lacks the strength for this rescue, placing all of his hopes on our overpowered hero to bring the girl back safely. Facing the swarming drakes, the teacher channels his lightning magic with fierce determination, unleashing a barrage of electric strikes to keep the flying monsters completely occupied. Meanwhile, Leon and Luna step into the desolate floating island wasteland of the legendary Black Gate, picking up the pace as they search the dark abyss for any sign of Izumiya, before a massive roaring red drake suddenly swoops down from the dark sky. Our hero calmly notes that even the standard mobs here are considered high-level dungeon bosses, but he simply smirks before channeling a dense surge of his own dark attribute magic, summoning a terrifying purple-flamed weapon known as the Calamity Scythe directly into his hand. As the giant beast lunges forward, Leon coldly orders the monster to get out of his way, delivering a single devastating slash that effortlessly cleaves the massive creature in half. This giant beast's severed claw flies through the air as Leon's devastating slash connects, leaving the massive monster completely sliced in half while our hero stands completely unfazed. But a whole swarm of flying drakes quickly surrounds him, completely blocking his path forward, prompting Leon to coldly order the beast to get out of his way. Meanwhile, the corrupt headmaster watches the entire scene unfold from his high-tech control room, chuckling maliciously because he thinks our overpowered protagonist is just jumping straight to his death. Deep inside the dark abyss, Leon and Luna finally reach the lowest levels of the dungeon, where the worried little fairy asks if her master is holding up all right under this pressure, only for him to confidently smile, noting he survived much worse back in the depths of hell. which instantly reassures Luna as she eagerly reminds him that they need to save their classmate. With their resolve fully set, the duo quickens their pace down the dark, winding stone path. At that exact moment, the captured student president groans in pain as she slowly regains consciousness. Realizing she is completely bound by thick, glowing purple coils that restrict her every movement, before she looks up to find a massive, terrifying eye monster staring directly down at her, struggling desperately against the tight grip only to find that she cannot break free at all, while the sinister creature begins actively draining the massive mana reserves straight out of her body. She realizes this horrifying beast would cause absolute devastation if it ever escaped into the outside world. Yet her thoughts quickly drift to Leon, wondering if he managed to escape the trap safely, smiling softly as she realizes her powerful classmate would never simply run away from a fight, inspiring her to summon a spark of fire magic to keep fighting until help arrives. Izumiya desperately tries to spark her fire magic to break free from the tight coils, but she gasps in sheer panic as her mana completely refuses to activate. Realizing this terrifying monster is actively draining every single drop of her energy, while the massive, toothy maw of the beast looms directly over her helpless body. Just as she closes her eyes and prepares for the absolute worst, a familiar voice echoes, and a brilliant flash of purple energy violently slices right to the monster's thick tentacle, sending the severed limb flying as Leon's signature weapon spins gracefully through the air. This devastating slash completely shatters the beast's hold, instantly freeing the trapped student president, who looks up in absolute disbelief as our overpowered hero casually apologizes for being late. A soft, relieved smile crosses her face because deep down she knew he would come, watching him stand tall amidst the chaos while reaching out a hand to protect her. Meanwhile, the corrupt headmaster grins maliciously into his phone, celebrating his seemingly flawless plan, boasting to his mysterious ally that this legendary gate will mark the end of our protagonist. Back in the abyss, the colossal eye monster prepares to turn both students into its sustenance, though Izumiya can only stare at Leon, still amazed that he actually risked his life, while Luna quickly warns her master that the creature's tentacles are actively absorbing her mana. Staring at the bizarre beast, Leon notes he has never encountered the species even in hell. But he refuses to let himself falter, channeling a dense surge of dark magic instead. Suddenly, a massive beam of purple energy crashes down from above, targeting our hero directly, triggering a violent explosion that shakes the entire cavern as Leon swiftly leaps out of harm's way. Watching the massive tentacle swing past, Leon quickly realizes he cannot afford to make a single mistake, especially after seeing the ground completely shatter under the sheer weight of the beast's devastating strike, prompting our hero to immediately channel his dark attribute magic to target the creature's main body, while the colossal eye monster glares down at him with its terrifying, glowing red pupil. Unleashing a massive purple slash, Leon activates his deadly claw skill to tear through the dark abyss, which makes Luna cheer in absolute excitement before her master quickly warns her to stay alert, pointing out that the giant boss remains completely unharmed while still holding their classmate captive. Roaring in pure fury, the massive beast slams its heavy limbs down to crush our protagonist, forcing Leon to swiftly retreat up the steep rocky cliffs to find a better vantage point. He tries to analyze the situation, completely baffled by the bizarre nature of this legendary dungeon boss. But Luna suddenly screams a frantic warning as a toothy, worm-like limb sneaks up behind him, triggering a violent explosion of dust and debris that completely engulfs his previous position. Grunting in pain, our overpowered hero barely escapes the worst of it with a minor cheek scratch, reassuring the terrified student president that he is still standing and ready to keep fighting. Wiping the blood from his face, Leon admits that predicting this creature's bizarre movements is incredibly annoying. Yet he has no time to rest as another massive shadow looms directly over him, clicking his tongue in frustration while preparing to unleash his next devastating counterattack. With a swift swing of his scythe, he cleanly slices through the incoming threat with purple energy, only to watch in disbelief as the severed limb instantly splits into 3 aggressive new heads, leaving our protagonist to leap back into the air while unleashing another massive wave of dark magic. Luna watches anxiously, noting that her master has been fighting non-stop since they entered, while their captured classmate remains tightly bound and rapidly running out of precious time. She worries that approaching the boss directly will make him an easy target for those tentacles, but our overpowered protagonist simply smirks, completely unfazed by the terrifying scale of the threat. Swiftly dodging a massive strike, he watches the ground shatter where he stood just moments ago, calmly promising to land a decisive blow on his very next attempt as his mana flares. Charging forward with blinding speed, Leon channels his dark energy to close the distance, prompting the helpless student president to watch in awe as her savior fights his way closer, only for the colossal eye monster to unleash a swarm of toothy, snapping limbs to block him. Refusing to slow down, our hero prepares to unleash his next high-tier spell, casting a devastating wave of purple lightning known as Grim Eater to shatter the incoming defenses. He effortlessly sprints directly up one of the massive thrashing limbs amidst the chaotic magical crossfire, forcing a painful groan from the giant beast as it struggles to keep track of his movements. With a cold glare, Leon declares he will not let the creature escape, channeling his dark attribute magic once more. Summoning a cluster of highly concentrated purple fireballs that hover menacingly in the air, before unleashing a blinding barrage called Blind Edge that pierces straight through the monster's defenses. Landing gracefully on a severed tentacle, our protagonist barely pauses to catch his breath, standing directly in front of the colossal glowing pupil of the terrified boss, whispering a cold declaration that this is finally the end of their little game. As he charges his ultimate dark spell, Lost Force, to obliterate the beast once and for all, Leon unleashes his ultimate dark spell, sending a massive wave of purple energy crashing down. This devastating strike hits the colossal eye monster directly, completely shattering its defenses in an instant, leaving its thrashing tentacles to disintegrate into nothingness under the intense heat of his purple flames. With the monster's hold completely broken, the glowing coils binding the student president finally shatter, sending her falling gently through the air as the dark energy dissipates around her. Our hero swiftly catches her in a heroic princess carry before landing safely on the ground. He gently asks if she is all right, prompting her to look up in absolute daze, while a soft, relieved smile crosses her face as she quietly admits her happiness. She is deeply touched that her powerful classmate actually came all this way to rescue her. Meanwhile, the corrupt headmaster panics as his monitors suddenly announce the legendary gate is disappearing. This villain simply cannot believe that a mere student could have defeated the ultimate overseer. Sweat pours down his face as his perfect plan crumbles into absolute dust. Hoping to regain control, he reaches inside his suit jacket for a secret trump card, which turns out to be a highly powerful magical ring gifted by his ally. Slipping the jewelry onto his finger, he prepares for a direct confrontation. With his hands covered in enchanted rings, he maliciously vows to eliminate the boy himself, but his smug confidence instantly vanishes when a cold, familiar voice echoes behind him. A massive vortex of dark magic suddenly manifests directly inside his secure control room. As Leon uses his shadow conversion skill to bypass all security and confront the villain, demanding to know how the overpowered hero managed to infiltrate his private sanctuary. Staring coldly at the corrupt headmaster, Leon declares that irredeemable scum like him can never be forgiven, leaving the panicked villain completely baffled as to how the student managed to infiltrate his secure room. But our hero calmly explains that he placed a tracking mark to teleport directly to his location, prompting the headmaster to narrow his eyes in disbelief at such an impossible magical feat. Suddenly remembering the strange shadow that brushed past him during their very first encounter, sweat pours down his face as he realizes he has never heard of such high-level magic. Though Leon has no intention of wasting time, stepping forward to demand some real answers, asking with a piercing glare if the headmaster was the one who summoned that terrifying beast, pointing out that trying to hide the truth is completely useless with all this control equipment around, before demanding to know why he would build an entire training academy just to pull this off. Instead of denying the accusations, the corrupt headmaster simply lets out a dark, arrogant chuckle, coldly revealing that the entire academy was established for the sole purpose of cultivating food, meaning the innocent students were raised as mere sacrifices to feed the legendary monster inside the gate. He proudly boasts about materializing the gate himself, completely drunk on his own twisted genius, planning to use the resulting chaos to seize absolute power and authority over the entire world. Listening to this sickening confession, Leon quietly absorbs the truth with a dangerously calm expression, realizing that his classmate Izumiya was just another piece of bait meant to be discarded, which cements his resolve to absolutely obliterate this pathetic excuse of a human being once and for all. Unfazed by the threat, the headmaster merely sneers back with supreme confidence in his own abilities, unleashing a massive torrent of blazing fire magic to end our overpowered protagonist right then and there. Screaming in absolute rage, the corrupt headmaster unleashes a massive wave of blazing fire magic, sending a torrent of roaring flames directly toward our seemingly defenseless protagonist. But Leon merely stands his ground as a dense aura of purple energy crackles, effortlessly neutralizing the incoming inferno before it can even singe a single hair, leaving the villain completely dumbfounded as sweat pours down his panicked face. Utterly unable to comprehend how his high-tier magic just vanished into thin air, staring blankly at the unscathed student, the headmaster desperately tries to process the situation, while our overpowered hero calmly tells him to actually try harder next time, which only infuriates the corrupt leader, who notices Leon's slightly scuffed uniform, prompting him to channel an even more destructive spell to erase his opponent, unleashing a colossal vortex of concentrated heat that threatens to incinerate the room, screaming for our protagonist to die as he pours everything into the strike. As the apocalyptic wave of fire rushes forward to consume him once again, Leon simply raises his hands with absolute confidence, preparing his next counter, triggering another wave of sheer panic in the villain, who senses something wrong, as our hero activates his high-level dark attribute magic to turn the tables, summoning a legendary defensive spell called Denial Mirror to reflect the entire attack, leaving the corrupt headmaster to watch in horror as his own flames turn back, engulfing him in a violent explosion of his own making as he screams, before he collapses onto the shattered ground, completely defeated by his own hubris. Coughing up blood on the shattered floor, the corrupt headmaster desperately struggles to stand, his mind completely spinning as he realizes his ultimate plan has utterly failed. especially since the supposedly weak student is now radiating an absolutely terrifying purple aura, leaving the villain to wonder what kind of monster he actually unleashed. Clenching his fist in pure desperation, the old man decides to play one final card, aiming to summon another legendary gate right inside the room to crush his opponent. But a sudden beam of dark magic instantly pierces straight through his hand. Screaming in agony, the headmaster clutches his ruined fingers while Leon watches with cold indifference, calmly deducing that those magical rings were the key to materializing the gates all along, which prompts the terrified villain to pathetically beg for mercy as sweat pours down his face, only for our protagonist to shut him up with a brutal, magic-infused punch to the jaw, sending the corrupt leader crashing hard against the wall in a flash of purple light. Groaning in pain, the defeated headmaster lies completely helpless on the debris-covered floor, before our overpowered hero ruthlessly grabs him by the collar to lift him back up. Reminding the trembling scum that people like him never deserve any form of forgiveness, he demands to know the identity and location of the mastermind pulling the strings behind this academy. Yet a sinister curse suddenly triggers inside the villain's body to keep him quiet, causing his eyes to roll back as his life force is violently snuffed out, with a faint trail of dark smoke whispering a final cryptic title into the air. Staring down at the lifeless body, Leon prepares himself for the even greater battles ahead. Frustrated that the trail went cold, Leon realizes tracking down the true mastermind will not be easy. Meanwhile, in a luxurious room, a mysterious blonde man dismisses the headmaster's defeat as a minor loss, conceding that our hero might have won this round but remaining completely unfazed by the setback, while his fingers twitch with anticipation for the next phase of his grand scheme. Standing proudly by the window, this elegant villain prepares to take matters into his own hands, whispering a chilling promise that this is far from the final chapter of their conflict. Back at the academy, Leon stands on the windy rooftop alongside the grateful student president. She listens intently as they discuss the bizarre aftermath of their chaotic battle, learning that the corrupt headmaster woke up with his entire memory completely wiped clean, though the authorities have already taken the brainwashed villain into custody for further questioning. This threat is far from over since mysterious gates continue to materialize across the world, pointing directly to the involvement of a sinister mastermind known only as Prince Shark. Clenching his fist against the railing, our protagonist welcomes the challenge with absolute resolve, swearing to hunt down this elusive royal villain no matter where he might be hiding. Later that night, Leon tosses and turns in his bed as sweat pours down his face, trapped in a terrifying nightmare of a colossal skeletal beast declaring his ultimate doom, forcing him to relive the agonizing moments of his tragic past life once again, where an innocent young girl happily begged him to teach her magic upon his return, only for the treacherous Prince Shark to fake a friendly partnership during their joint investigation, before brutally revealing that everyone he loved was slaughtered in a twisted act of betrayal. Jolting awake in a cold sweat, Leon gasps as he escapes the clutches of that horrific memory, realizing with a heavy sigh that the tragic betrayal was thankfully just a nightmare. Sitting up in bed, our hero stares out the window at the academy flag fluttering outside, knowing that while the corrupt headmaster was arrested, the real mastermind is still out there, and that very flag serves as a grim reminder that Prince Shark is lurking nearby. Clenching his fist with burning resolve, Leon vows to hunt down the treacherous royal villain, swearing to make him pay for the devastating betrayal of his past life. This next morning, a peaceful sunlight washes over the massive training academy as classes resume. Whispers quickly spread through the hallways as a mysterious man in a flashy red suit arrives, drawing curious stares from the students who wonder about this strange new presence. Hearing the rumors, Leon raises an eyebrow upon learning about the sudden leadership change. While the student president explains that this new headmaster requested a personal meeting today, our protagonist silently wonders what kind of person they are actually dealing with this time. Izumi mentions that her influential family has actually known this man since she was young, revealing his name to be Jennings Coleman, a highly respected authority in the magical community, who serves as a top instructor for an elite organization of the world's best wizards. Although Leon acknowledges his impressive credentials, he remains cautious about anyone stepping into this role, hoping this newcomer is genuinely capable instead of another corrupt villain in disguise. Arriving at the grand office, the student president politely knocks on the heavy wooden door, stepping inside to introduce our overpowered hero to the smiling man waiting for them. Stepping into the office, Leon is greeted by a flashy man with an overly familiar smile, who dramatically welcomes our protagonist and expresses his absolute delight at finally meeting him, leaving Leon slightly caught off guard by this bizarrely energetic reception from the new headmaster. Jennings proudly flashes a thumbs up while introducing himself as the illustrious Jennings Coleman. Leaning over to the student president, our hero quietly asks if this guy is always so extra, which she instantly confirms before Jennings asks if they already discussed his prestigious background, prompting the flamboyant leader to reveal that he actually hails from an elite organization called Saber, explaining that his group specializes in managing the dangerous gates appearing all across the globe, though only the absolute elite of the elite wizards are ever permitted to join their ranks, meaning he is basically bragging about being one of the strongest mages on the planet, laughing heartily while telling the students they can rely on his immense power for anything. Staring at this display of pure ego, Leon notes the man certainly does not lack self-confidence, before the student president politely nudges her uncle to get back to the actual point, instantly shifting the mood as Jennings turns around to address our protagonist with sudden seriousness, reminding him that humanity is currently facing an endless threat from these mysterious dimensional rifts, which Leon calmly acknowledges as he prepares to hear the real reason behind this meeting. Only for Jennings to admit that Saber is severely lacking in manpower to deploy help everywhere, though things were relatively peaceful before since most gates would eventually just close on their own. But his expression darkens as he warns that the situation has drastically changed recently, revealing that a terrifying new anomaly known as the Black Gate has finally materialized. Leon asks if this threat is really so massive that even Saber cannot ignore it anymore. And the flamboyant headmaster confirms that is exactly why he personally made the trip down here, explaining that the sheer danger level of this Black Gate completely eclipses their standard category reds, meaning if the colossal monsters inside ever break free, entire cities will be reduced to ash. Since his elite organization is currently stretched thin, they desperately need extra boots on the ground. Which is why he is officially asking our protagonist and the student president for their help, leaving the duo slightly surprised as Jennings claims they possess the necessary skills for this raid. He chuckles, mentioning he already reviewed the reports from their previous chaotic dungeon escape, knowing that even his own top-tier agents would struggle to survive that brutal environment. So he extends a hand to make a formal request to our overpowered hero, asking Leon to lend his monstrous strength to protect the world from this impending doom. Without a single moment of hesitation, Leon firmly grasps the man's hand to seal the deal, agreeing to cooperate while the flamboyant leader smiles back, completely unaware of our hero's true power. Izumia watches silently, preparing to tell her uncle that Leon actually cleared the last gate solo, but a sudden blaring red siren interrupts her as a category red gate materializes nearby, throwing the student president into a panic while the new headmaster calmly strokes his chin, realizing the sudden crisis is actually the perfect opportunity to test our protagonist's combat abilities. Although Izumia warns him not to take a high-level threat so lightly, Leon just shrugs, telling the flashy leader to handle the perimeter while they go wild inside the dungeon. Stepping up to the towering crimson portal, the two students prepare to face the chaos head-on. As Leon and the student president prepare to step into the glowing portal, a familiar voice suddenly calls out from behind, questioning their decision to go alone, revealing Naros, who calmly announces his intention to join the raid as well. Our protagonist is surprised to see him, but the glasses-wearing student insists more help is always better, prompting a rare approving smirk from Leon as he accepts the unexpected reinforcement. Stepping forward with absolute confidence, the trio prepares to face the high-level threat head-on. With their minds fully aligned, they stand united before the towering Crimson Gate, crossing over the threshold to find themselves inside a massive ice-cold cavern. This marks the very first time our overpowered hero is raiding a dungeon with a party, reminding him of the new headmaster's challenge to prove their worth in this dangerous zone. This situation brings back vivid memories of his past life, where camaraderie was everything. As Izumia notes that mutual trust is what truly inspires people to fight by your side. Agreeing with her sentiment, Leon realizes that cooperating with these allies might actually be beneficial. Without wasting another second, he leads the charge deeper into the category red dungeon, rushing down a steep icy slope while swarms of bats flutter through the frozen air. But the student president quickly warns him that the local monsters are already waiting for them. A pack of crystal-coated wolves and a massive stone golem suddenly block their path, yet our protagonist merely glares ahead, completely unfazed and ready to annihilate them all. Eager to prove her strength, Izumia steps up to take the first move against the beasts, unleashing a devastating barrage of massive icicle lances to shatter the oncoming horde. This crystal-coated wolves charge forward with terrifying speed, completely ignoring the freezing cold cavern around them. One beast manages to slip past the initial barrage, catching the student president completely off guard, but she quickly recovers by channeling her specialized dark attribute magic to counter the threat, unleashing a swift spell called Blind Edge to slice the oncoming monster clean in half. Meanwhile, our protagonist casually prepares his own dark magic while keeping a close eye on the battlefield, just as the massive stone golem looms overhead to crush him with a colossal fist. Spotting the monster's weak point, Leon immediately calls out to Naros to target the golem's glowing eyes, prompting the glasses-wearing student to draw back a brilliant bow made of pure lightning energy, releasing a devastating lightning shock that streaks across the cavern with blinding speed, directly piercing the golem's core and shattering its defenses in a single precise strike. This giant stone monster crumbles into harmless rubble as Leon calmly walks away without a scratch, but their victory is short-lived when a massive swarm of bat monsters suddenly descends from above, telling his panicked allies not to worry as he steps forward to handle the incoming swarm. Leon gathers a massive surge of dark attribute magic to prepare his devastating Raging Blast spell, unleashing a colossal purple vortex that completely engulfs the entire cavern in a storm of energy, shredding the entire swarm of bats to pieces before they can even get close to them, leaving nothing but defeated monsters raining down onto the frozen ground of the dungeon. Izumi immediately showers our overpowered hero with praise, absolutely amazed by his effortless display of strength. She quickly apologizes for her slow reaction, feeling guilty that Leon had to cover her mistakes. While Naros adjusts his glasses and sheepishly admits he was also far too slow to react, Leon reassures his teammates, telling them they actually did great against such a massive horde, but Naros immediately questions him about the bizarre magic he unleashed just a moment ago, noting that its sheer destructive power belongs to an attribute he has never seen before, since it clearly did not look like any ordinary spell a normal student could cast, prompting him to ask the student president if she already knew about the secret power, which she confirms while admitting she is still incredibly curious about its true origin. Calmly closing his eyes, Leon decides to reveal that his power is dark attribute magic, leaving his two companions completely stunned by the mention of this legendary forbidden force. He explains it possesses unique properties entirely separate from the four standard elements of the world, making Naros realize our hero was holding back during their previous mock battle, though Leon just shrugs it off, urging them to focus on defeating the dungeon boss. Watching him walk ahead, Izumi silently marvels at the sheer effort he must have put in, wondering what tragic past could have possibly driven him to train this incredibly hard, hoping that he might eventually trust her enough to share his heavy secrets one day. Suddenly, a massive roar echoes through the cavern as a colossal icy beast descends upon them, and our protagonist instantly recognizes the terrifying monster looming directly in front of their path, identifying it as a crystal dragon, a notoriously durable threat from his previous life, before instructing his allies to provide support by targeting its legs from behind, an assignment the duo eagerly accepts as they prepare their magic to back him up. As with absolute confidence, our overpowered hero charges forward to slay the beast, Leon stands completely unfazed as the massive crystal dragon looms directly over him, while his teammates combine their powers to unleash a massive freezing spell called Causidus, instantly trapping the colossal beast's legs in solid ice to halt its advance. Seizing the perfect opening, our protagonist channels a massive surge of dark attribute magic, leaping high into the air as the swirling purple energy wraps around his hand, before unleashing a devastating spell called Calamity Scythe to strike down the beast. This colossal crescent of dark energy slices clean through the dragon's incredibly durable hide, shattering the legendary monster into harmless crystal shards in a single effortless blow. Watching this absurd display of power, his two companions can only stare in absolute disbelief, completely awestruck by the sheer destructive force of Leon's forbidden dark magic. Meanwhile, the flamboyant headmaster waits outside the portal until a sudden sound catches his attention, turning around to see the three students casually strolling out of the collapsing rift, prompting Jennings to enthusiastically praise them for far exceeding his already high expectations. Laughing heartily, the flashy leader brags about easily handling the weak monsters that slipped outside. Before welcoming Naros to the group and expressing his delight at their flawless victory, Leon calmly confirms the successful raid, completely ignoring the headmaster's dramatic bragging, which leaves Jennings smiling warmly as he admits they hardly seem like ordinary students anymore. Seizing the moment, our protagonist looks the flashy leader dead in the eye with a proposal, explaining that managing these dangerous dimensional rifts will only become more critical very soon. Before officially requesting permission for their newly formed three-person clan to clear the gates, Jennings is taken aback by the proposal, asking if Leon really wants to form a three-person clan, and our hero explains that a dedicated team can easily cover for Saber's current lack of manpower, prompting the flashy headmaster to stroke his chin while carefully weighing the pros and cons. Noting that while there is absolutely no precedent for students forming a gate-clearing clan, they might actually succeed, so he enthusiastically gives them his full permission to do whatever they want in the field, even promising to convert their dungeon achievements directly into top-tier school grades so they can skip classes. Leon offers a rare, polite smile as he expresses his gratitude for the headmaster's generous offer, turning back to his new teammates to officially announce the grand beginning of their joint operations. Shortly after, the newly formed trio gathers inside a private room to plan their very first mission, where the student president looks down at a digital tablet displaying a map covered in colorful pins. Our protagonist explains that the map tracks every single date he personally cleared to find a hidden pattern, leaving Naros completely flabbergasted by the sheer absurd number of dungeons Leon conquered entirely on his own. Remembering the recent news reports about mysterious, rapid gate closures happening all over the city lately, which makes Izumi realize that their quiet classmate was the legendary solo hunter behind those miraculous clears. Although Naros calls his solo runs incredibly reckless, the floating fairy Luna eagerly pops up to agree with him. But the student president warmly reassures Leon that he will never have to face these dangers alone again, prompting our overpowered hero to softly close his eyes and accept the comforting warmth of his new allies. Even the little fairy is excited for their future adventures, hovering happily around the close-knit group, though Naros quickly shifts the mood by warning them about the dangerous magic essence leaking from active rifts. A crucial detail that instantly reminds Leon of the very first warning Luna gave him upon entering this world. While magic essence can help some lucky individuals awaken their dormant magical powers, It acts as a deadly poison to anyone lacking the proper elemental aptitude, meaning an overflow of this energy would cause an absolute catastrophe in the city. To prevent this, Leon emphasizes the need to nip these disasters in the bud. Leading his team out into the quiet streets under the cover of darkness, officially starting their very first night patrol, the trio keeps their guard up. Though Izumiya suddenly spots something unexpected moving just ahead of their path, several elite wizards from the Saber organization are already patrolling the exact same area, confirming the headmaster's warning that security in this sector has been heavily tightened lately. Naros points out that these guards are clearly the best of the best, but their observation is cut short when Leon suddenly senses a massive rift opening. At that exact moment, the Saber wizards' communication devices erupt with urgent static, alerting them to a sudden dimensional breach that just occurred nearby in the city. This guards shout that the gate has manifested 5 kilometers to the southwest, prompting our protagonist and his allies to immediately spring into action without hesitation. Racing through the night, the 3 students leap across rooftops with incredible speed, arriving at a chaotic scene filled with burning cars and rising smoke, where a massive crimson gate looms over terrified civilians fleeing for their lives. Suddenly, a young girl trips and falls onto the hard asphalt, crying out in panic, as a monstrous wolf lunges from the shadows to strike her down. This terrified little girl freezes in absolute horror as the monster's razor-sharp jaws close in on her. But our protagonist is already on the move, channeling his dark attribute magic into a clenched fist, unleashing a swift spell called Deadly Claw to shred the beast to pieces in a single flash, stepping in front of the traumatized child as the defeated monster collapses onto the pavement. This mother rushes over to embrace her daughter, tearfully thanking Leon for saving their lives. While our hero calmly suggests they leave the remaining street-level threats to the arriving Saber forces, turning his back on the grateful family to focus on the massive dimensional rift ahead, leaving the young girl staring after him with wide, sparkling eyes full of pure admiration, though Leon barely registers the praise as he prepares to tackle the real source of the chaos. Nearby, the massive Crimson Gate pulses with violent energy as panicked guards struggle to maintain order, desperately trying to establish contact with their vanguard team that went inside to clear it. Spotting our trio approaching the danger zone, a tense Saber officer immediately demands to know their identities, prompting Leon to introduce them as an official student clan operating under the headmaster's direct authority. This officer instantly recognizes them from the rumors, recalling how his former instructor Jenny's praised their abilities, which leads Leon to ask about the urgent situation that seems to have the guards so rattled, only to learn that the clearing team they sent inside has completely vanished without a trace. Another guard adds that their communicators are still active, meaning something inside is blocking their signals. And when Narus asks why they are not launching a rescue mission, the officer admits they lack manpower, explaining that their top priority is evacuating civilians while hoping their trapped comrades can survive on their own. Hearing this grim update, the 3 students exchange a knowing look as they prepare to dive in. Leon calmly tells the officer that his team will handle the inside of the dangerous gate, but the guard panics, warning him that a Category Red rift is far too deadly for students, only for a familiar, booming laugh to suddenly cut through the tense atmosphere. Jennings arrives on the scene in his signature flashy suit, looking completely relaxed, assuring the guards that these kids are actually top-tier wizards who can handle themselves. With their headmaster's backing, the trio prepares to step forward with absolute resolve, crossing the threshold into a dark, eerie forest shrouded in thick mist, where Izumiya immediately notes that the heavy fog is severely blocking their vision. Naros pushes forward anyway, reminding everyone that their main objective remains exactly the same, prompting Leon to lock in as he prepares to lead the charge, declaring that they need to give this first official clan mission everything they have. Running deep into the woods, the group quickly spots a defeated wolf monster on the ground, which makes the student president wonder if the missing vanguard team fought these beasts. While Narus grows increasingly anxious about whatever threat managed to overwhelm Saber's elites, Leon acknowledges the boss must be incredibly strong but insists they focus on saving the survivors. Watching his back, Izumiya initially assumes his dark magic will easily carry them through, before shaking off the thought, determined not to let him carry the burden entirely alone. Naru silently agrees, refusing to lag behind his overpowered classmate any longer. As both allies find their resolve to prove their worth as true teammates, suddenly they stumble upon a glowing blue slime monster hovering right next to the fallen vanguard. Desperate to survive, the vanguard leader channels his remaining mana into a blazing fireball, unleashing a barrage of fiery projectiles directly at the incoming threat in a last-ditch effort, which explodes on impact and completely engulfs the target in a massive cloud of smoke. But the attack barely leaves a scratch on the monster's bizarre, rib-like outer shell, revealing a massive blue slime that easily absorbs the impact without taking any real damage. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the exhausted vanguard leader realizes they are completely outmatched, while his wounded teammate begs to be left behind to save the rest of the squad, as the relentless monster does not give them a single second to argue, lunging forward aggressively, prompting the leader to desperately summon an earthen wall to block the incoming strike, only for the slime's high-pressure water beams to instantly pierce right through their defenses. sending the elite wizards crashing hard onto the forest floor in absolute defeat. Tears stream down the injured rookie's face as he blames himself for ruining the entire mission, just as the deadly slime prepares to rain down a final, lethal barrage of liquid spikes, until a massive crescent of dark energy suddenly tears through the misty air, effortlessly vaporizing the monster's attack and saving the helpless Vanguard team at the very last second, leaving the stunned leader to look up in absolute disbelief at their mysterious savior. Leon calmly steps out of the shadows, immediately recognizing the fallen wizards as Saber's elite forces, though the wounded captain is completely baffled to see high school students wandering around this deadly zone. Ignoring his confusion, Izumiya quickly analyzes the creature and points out the glowing core inside its body, urging Naros to ignite his flame magic as they prepare to take down the beast together. Naros locks her gaze onto the target, shouting for the team to move out, while she charges forward with a powerful leap that shatters the ground beneath her. But the relentless slime monster instantly reacts by lunging straight toward the vulnerable student president, prompting Izumiya to scream out a desperate warning as the situation rapidly turns south, as a massive glob of acidic blue liquid rains down directly from above, trapping Naros in its sticky grasp before she can even attempt to dodge the strike. Seeing his leader in grave danger, Izumiya rushes forward to help her, only to get instantly pinned down by another aggressive slime creature before he can reach her, leaving both of Leon's new allies completely helpless against the monster's overwhelming numbers, until our overpowered protagonist steps up, quietly channeling his devastating dark attribute magic, unleashing a massive spell called Evil Burst to blast the creature right off Naros, which leaves the student president staring in absolute shock at his sheer destructive power. Without pausing for a single second, Leon fires a rapid barrage of dark energy spheres, directly targeting the monster's exposed core to completely disrupt its regenerative abilities, making the wounded Vanguard leader realize that these kids are definitely not ordinary students. Leon stands protectively in front of his team, warning the beast to back off. With a swift motion, he swings his dark magic scythe to deliver a final blow, unleashing a massive crescent wave of purple energy that tears through the remaining slimes, effortlessly clearing the entire battlefield in one incredibly stylish and overpowered move, leaving the rescued Saber elite guards completely speechless at the sheer absurdity of his strength. This rescued Saber guards cheer in absolute relief, celebrating the students' overwhelming victory, while Izumiya smiles warmly, finally feeling like a true and capable teammate. Back out on the city streets, the entire squad gathers around the Yum Academy students, prompting the captain to step forward and express his deepest gratitude for their heroic rescue. Leon humbly downplays the praise, calmly stating they were simply doing what they could, which makes Jenny's burst into a proud laugh, boasting about his students' incredible talents. This captain readily agrees, admitting he feels deeply ashamed for underestimating them based on age, immediately ordering his entire squad to stand at attention and show their respect. As the elite guards salute the young wizards to officially thank them for their service, Leon and Izumiya accept the gesture quietly, ready to head back after a successful mission. Later in his room, Leon's fairy companion floats around excitedly, celebrating his massive achievement, though our protagonist remains practical, noting that saving the Vanguard team was the real priority. She giggles and mentions that Saber even wants to recruit him immediately after graduation. But their lighthearted conversation is suddenly interrupted by a quiet knock at the door, prompting the little fairy to quickly vanish as Leon wonders who could visit so late. Stepping forward to open it, he is quite surprised by the unexpected guest waiting outside, finding Izumiya standing in the hallway with a soft, slightly nervous smile on her face. He asks if something is wrong while she politely apologizes for disturbing his rest, though she hesitates for a moment, clearly struggling to find the right words, before blushing deeply and shyly asking if she can have just a moment of his time. Izumiya nervously looks up, asking Leon if he would be willing to teach her magic, explaining that she simply cannot stand being weak and needs his direct guidance to grow, which makes our protagonist realize just how deeply today's intense battle affected her resolve. Recalling how helpless her fellow teammate looked while trapped under the monster's acidic slime, although that chaotic situation was completely unavoidable, he knows she wants strength rather than pity, prompting Leon to readily agree to her request and offer his personal training sessions. This instantly brings a bright, relieved smile to the young student president's face. Watching her happy reaction, he silently notes how incredibly straightforward and honest she always is, leading the duo straight to the school rooftop under the starry night sky to begin immediately. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoes from the doorway, calling them out for sneaking off alone, revealing Naros stepping onto the roof, demanding to join their late-night training session as well. When Izumiya teases him about wanting lessons, he flusteredly claims it is unfair to get a head start, amusing Leon's hidden fairy companion, who quietly remarks on how easily the boy reveals his feelings. This boy coughs to quickly regain his composure after being called out so easily. He firmly reminds everyone that as a clan, they cannot afford to fall behind their leader, making Leon smile warmly and welcome both of his dedicated teammates to the session. Under the bright glow of the full moon, the training officially gets underway, with Leon acknowledging that both of them already possess an excellent grasp of advanced magical abilities. But his tone suddenly shifts as he closes his eyes to deliver a crucial critique, declaring that they must first correct their terrible habits, leaving both students completely dumbfounded. Leon starts by calling out Izumiya, pointing out her bad habit of charging headfirst into battle, which instantly triggers a memory of her recklessly trying to make the first move, explaining that this hyperfocus blinds her to surrounding threats and leaves her completely vulnerable. Turning his attention to Naros, our overpowered protagonist suggests he needs to make quicker battlefield predictions, prompting the glasses-wearing mage to nervously ask for a deeper explanation of his critique. Leon calmly explains that a true wizard must always prepare for the absolute worst-case scenario, reminding him of the exact moment their teammate got trapped by the slime's surprise attack. Adjusting his glasses, Naros readily agrees, admitting he completely lost his cool during that chaotic fight, noting that safe school mock battles simply cannot compare to the unpredictable variables of real combat. To fix this, Leon tells them they must drastically widen their field of vision starting tonight, raising his hand to channel a bit of his dark magic right on the rooftop, as a glowing purple shadow wolf suddenly manifests right in front of the startled students. He reassures them it is just a harmless shadow recreation, ordering them to dodge while casting spells. With renewed determination, the duo locks in and prepares to face their custom training dummy. The shadow beast lunges forward aggressively, forcing both wizards to leap back in perfect sync, and they quickly begin dodging the relentless attacks while charging up their elemental magic. After a grueling session, Naros catches his breath and suggests taking a quick break, proudly claiming that this level of intensity is absolutely nothing for a top-tier wizard like him. Leon watches Izumiya continue to push herself, silently admiring how deeply committed both of his teammates are, until Naros mentions that her extreme drive stems from her heavy responsibilities as the student president. Naros explains that the Izumiya family is a highly prestigious lineage of outstanding wizards, revealing that her relatives have always fought on the dangerous front lines of the gates, which is exactly where her intense sense of duty and heavy responsibility comes from. She chose this path specifically to protect the world from these terrifying monster threats, prompting Leon to silently respect her noble resolve as he listens to the story. Our glasses-wearing mage admits that supporting someone carrying such a massive burden has never been easy, adjusting his glasses as he explains his own burning desire to become much stronger, before awkwardly apologizing for his past behavior while still declaring his rivalry with Leon. This hidden fairy giggles at his tsundere attitude, which our protagonist finds quite amusing. Turning back to the task at hand, Leon calls for them to resume training. Meanwhile, Jenny sips his tea from the office window, pleased with their rapid progress. And a whole month passes in a flash as the team enters a new dungeon, immediately confronting a massive club-wielding giant that towers over the young academy students. Leon quickly commands his teammates to focus their attacks directly on the main body, dodging a devastating ground slam by leaping gracefully onto the giant's massive shoulder. Preparing to strike, our overpowered protagonist swings his dark magic scythe with absolute precision, unleashing a devastating purple slash that effortlessly cuts straight through the beast's defenses, slicing both of its arms clean off to create an opening for his allies. However, the giant's severed limbs suddenly begin to bubble with a strange green light, regenerating a brand new hand instantly to catch the young wizards completely off guard. As the giant's massive fist crashes down, our two trained allies leap high into the air, instantly preparing their newly refined elemental spells to strike back at the towering monster, unleashing a coordinated barrage of lightning shot and icicle lance directly at their target. This combined magical attacks tear through the air, hitting the giant with absolute precision, as the devastating elemental energy pierces straight through its chest to finish it off. With a final agonizing roar, the giant collapses, leaving the squad standing completely victorious. Izumiya and Naru celebrate their flawless teamwork, finally proving how much they have grown. Meanwhile, a mysterious blonde man watches their battle on a monitor with an amused chuckle, noting how the world always seems to call for a savior in times of crisis. But his smug expression quickly turns sinister as he contemplates his own secret plans, looking over a massive field of glowing pink plants where his dark experiment is almost complete. He smiles wickedly, eagerly anticipating his upcoming meeting with our overpowered protagonist, Leon. Back at the academy, the peaceful morning sun shines down on the bustling campus, where students gather in the cafeteria to chat about the latest gossip and news, reading a newspaper article about the student president's newly formed clan conquering dates. One student points out how impressive it is that they are already recognized by Saber, while his friend notices that the infamous Leon is also a member of this elite squad. He playfully teases his buddy about getting absolutely wrecked by Leon in their past mock battle, prompting the embarrassed student to quickly claim that his defeat was completely unavoidable, remembering how he had absolutely no idea just how terrifyingly strong Leon truly was. This gossip continues as the students reveal that even the student council is training under Leon, leaving his former classmate to admit that our protagonist has reached an entirely different level. But their conversation is suddenly cut short when one of them spots someone entering, prompting them to whisper as Leon walks into the cafeteria alongside his elite squad. While Izumiya notices the heavy stares, Naru's proudly boasts about their rapidly growing reputation. However, their walk is interrupted when a nervous female student suddenly steps in front of them, politely calling out to Leon to deliver a deeply personal message of gratitude. She explains that her family lives right next to the recently conquered gate, bowing deeply to thank him for saving her loved ones from the monster threat. This heartfelt gesture triggers a sudden wave of memories from Leon's previous life, recalling how the grateful villagers of his old world used to praise his heroic deeds, remembering the wealthy lords who thanked him for saving their territories from starvation, along with the smiling townspeople who always welcomed him with open arms, and the cheerful children who used to run up to greet their favorite hero. Even the king himself once showered him with absolute praise for his legendary accomplishments, bringing a soft smile to Leon's face as he realizes his true purpose remains unchanged. Back in the present, the gossiping students marvel at how he has become a literal hero, noting that even the lowest-ranked student in the academy can achieve greatness with enough effort. Though not everyone in the room is thrilled to see Leon's meteoric rise to fame, as an envious rival scoffs and walks away, clearly irritated by our protagonist's massive success. Walking away from the crowd, Izumiya playfully teases Leon about his sudden rise to local hero status, but our protagonist quickly shifts focus, asking why Headmaster Jenny's summoned their squad to his office, leaving even his fairy companion highly curious about what the powerful headmaster could possibly want. Stepping inside the spacious office, the trio finds Jenny's waiting for them by the massive window, who immediately bursts into hearty laughter while praising their incredible achievements in the recent dungeons, specifically pointing out how much both Izumiya and Naros have grown under their leader's guidance. This young student president happily credits Leon's intense training sessions, which even Naros begrudgingly admits helped, prompting her to ask her uncle about the real reason behind the sudden meeting, as the headmaster reaches into his desk drawer while keeping the destination a complete secret, before pulling out a set of car keys and revealing they are visiting Saber's branch. Soon, their sleek white car is speeding down the highway toward this mysterious new location, where Jenny's explains that the prestigious guild's vice branch chief specifically requested to meet Leon. Turning to his glasses-wearing teammate, our protagonist asks if he knows anything about this chief, who turns out to be Nihama Ryuji, a legendary prodigy feared even among Saber's elites, having served as the Academy's very first student council president and a highly skilled wizard, as he remained completely undefeated in school mock battles before graduating to the frontlines. Since joining the elite guild, Ryuji has successfully cleared an impressive number of dangerous gates, leaving Izumiya wondering why such a famous wizard would want to meet them so badly, while Leon silently contemplates what kind of person this legendary predecessor actually is. Finally, the group arrives at Saber's massive 7th branch mansion, ready to face whatever awaits inside. Jenny's leads the group down a lavish hallway, opening the door to the vice chief's office. Inside, the legendary prodigy Nihama Ryuji sits casually on a couch waiting for them, turning around with a smug smile to welcome the famous academy students, explaining that he heard rumors of their newly formed clan conquering high-level gates, which made him feel absolutely compelled to meet this rising star in person, laughing heartily as he towers over Leon and asks if he is excited, prompting our protagonist's hidden fairy to immediately call out his massive ego. Ryuji reaches out a hand, calling Leon boy with a highly patronizing tone, but as their hands lock together in what should be a standard greeting, a massive wave of blue killing intent suddenly erupts from the smiling senior, catching our overpowered protagonist completely off guard as the sudden pressure spikes, leaving Leon to look around in confusion while his teammates remain totally oblivious. Chuckling at the reaction, the vice chief realizes Leon actually felt his hidden test, telling him to relax since it was just a quick check of his reflexes, admitting he originally planned to send them home right after a brief greeting, before his smile turns competitive as he suddenly demands a proper duel. Soon, the group relocates to the massive indoor training grounds of the 7th branch, where Ryuji laments the lack of a crowd to witness their upcoming clash, claiming this private setting will allow Leon to unleash his full power without holding back. Locking eyes with our protagonist who silently prepares for a highly anticipated showdown, Leon is completely taken aback by the sudden mock battle proposal from the vice branch chief, while Ryuji casually admits he is a total battle maniac who sees massive potential in him, pointing out how Leon easily detected the heavy killing intent he unleashed just moments ago. Extending his hand, the smug senior asks our protagonist if he is ready to accept, knowing that Saber only recruits elite wizards and this man stands at the absolute top, which only makes Leon highly curious about his opponent's true strength and hidden abilities, especially since he needs to identify the source of that terrifyingly cold, beastly pressure. Watching from the sidelines, Headmaster Jenny's sighs at how his former student never changes, explaining that Ryuji simply wants to measure Leon's worth to their overall fighting force. Though Izumiya remains highly skeptical since they are facing a seasoned, top-tier professional. However, Naru's quickly defends Leon, showing absolute confidence in her teammates' ridiculous power. Back on the field, Ryuji smirks and conjures a blazing sphere of fire for a warm-up, launching the massive fireball directly at our protagonist to kick off the duel. But Leon calmly prepares to intercept it, recognizing it as basic beginner-level magic. Smiling wickedly, the vice chief declares he will not make things that easy for him, suddenly detonating and splitting the spell right before it reaches its target, leaving the shocked spectators to gasp as the flames unexpectedly divide into multiple paths. A massive explosion rocks the arena floor, kicking up a blinding wave of heat and dust, only for Ryoji's smug expression to instantly vanish when he realizes his opponent is no longer there. As Leon leaps high into the air, unleashing a devastating counterattack to shock the legendary prodigy, Ryoji smirks as he realizes his initial explosive attack did not quite do the job, praising our protagonist for managing to pull off a counterattack in the middle of that chaos. Turns out Leon used a quick ice barrier to block the blast and create a perfect smokescreen, which only makes the smug Vice Branch Chief even more excited for a real challenge. Watching from the sidelines, Naros marvels at Leon's reflexes while questioning the bizarre nature of that fireball, prompting Headmaster Jennings to explain the advanced magic manipulation required to split a spell mid-flight. This explanation triggers a sudden realization for Izumiya as he watches the intense battle unfold, remembering how Leon pulled off the exact same high-level trick during their previous mock duel, leaving the glasses-wearing teammate to bitterly lament the massive, humiliating gap in their current power levels. Back on the field, Ryoji eagerly declares it is time to kick off round 2, unleashing a massive torrent of wind magic that begins to tear up the entire arena floor, summoning a devastating storm cyclone that completely dwarfs any standard spell they have ever seen. Even our overpowered protagonist is highly impressed, noting this firepower easily surpasses the wizards of his old world. Realizing he needs to quickly escape the swirling vortex to find a safer vantage point, leaping backward through the air to set up a devastating counterattack from a distance. Suddenly, Leon unleashes a massive wave of water magic to completely douse the raging wind, catching the smug Vice Chief completely off guard as he struggles to comprehend the sudden elemental shift. As the colossal torrent crashes down and floods the training grounds in a spectacular display of power, quickly recovering, Ryoji prepares his next spell, knowing Leon cannot easily dodge while suspended in midair, launching a barrage of glowing earth magic to bring this intense duel to a decisive end. Ryoji moves with blinding speed, leaving a trail of afterimages as he closes the distance, using the floating chunks of earth magic as perfect footholds to launch himself forward. But our protagonist quickly conjures a glowing ice blade to intercept the incoming strike, sending sparks flying across the training grounds as their weapons collide in midair. The smug Vice Chief grins wildly, thrilled to finally find someone who can match his pace, before a massive shockwave erupts from their clash, forcing both fighters to slide backward. Landing gracefully on his feet, Leon ignores Narus's worried shouts from the sidelines, while Ryoji stands across the cracked arena, casually praising the kid's impressive defensive skills, as he asks with a wicked smirk if Leon is still hiding his true trump card, explaining that his subordinates already warned him about a highly mysterious magic in Leon's arsenal, warning our protagonist that holding back against a top-tier professional is a massive mistake, with his eyes glowing in intense anticipation while demanding to see the boy's real power. Accepting the challenge, Leon calmly admits that he might indeed have something extra prepared, letting a surge of dark purple flames erupt directly from his open palm, offering a confident smile as he prepares to unleash his legendary otherworldly magic. Smirking, Ryoji scoffs at the display, mockingly asking if the kid is finally taking this seriously, though Leon casually replies that he simply hoped to win without relying on it. This blunt response catches the Vice Chief off guard, narrowing his eyes in sudden focus, realizing this purple flame must be the bizarre attribute mentioned in the guild's reports, leaving the battle maniac absolutely thrilled to face a power he has never seen before. Jennings watches in awe, realizing this is his very first time seeing Leon's rumored attribute magic, while Naros confidently tells her uncle to watch closely because he is in for a massive surprise. Charging forward with his blade, Ryoji eagerly demands to see what this mysterious power can actually do, bringing his weapon down in a swift strike that our protagonist calmly prepares to block. Instantly, Leon summons his dark attribute magic, letting the ominous purple energy coat his hand, before manifesting his legendary Calamity Scythe to completely shatter the incoming assault in a massive clash. Standing perfectly calm amidst the floating debris, our overpowered protagonist does not even break a sweat, forcing the legendary Vice Branch Chief to slide backward across the cracked arena floor, who stares in absolute disbelief at his magically reinforced ice sword now cleanly snapped in half. Looking at the massive purple weapon, Ryoji finally recognizes the terrifying power mentioned in the guild reports. At the same time, Izumiya silently marvels at how incredibly experienced Leon is when it comes to real combat, wondering if their formidable opponent still has some hidden trick left to turn the tide. Chuckling, the battle maniac praises Leon's unique abilities and asks if he has even more dark spells, but our boy playfully deflects the question while asking if the senior has enough stamina left. Ryoji bursts out laughing, thoroughly impressed that this kid is nothing like a typical academy student, until his expression turns dead serious as he promises to show his opponent some real magic. Suddenly, a colossal vortex of green wind erupts around the Vice Chief, shaking the entire training grounds, as he simultaneously conjures a blazing fire in his hand to kick off the final round, leaving Naros completely speechless as she realizes their opponent is wielding two elements at the same time. Even Leon's fairy companion is deeply stunned, knowing how insanely difficult it is to master dual attributes. Boasting about his superior rank, the smug senior dares our protagonist to survive his next attack, as he combines wind and fire into a devastating high-level technique known as composite magic, unleashing a massive scorching wind onslaught that completely engulfs the training grounds in a fiery vortex. Even our overpowered protagonist realizes the sheer scale of this spell makes it impossible to simply dodge, prompting him to slam his legendary side down and prepare a direct counter to the incoming storm. Gathering his ominous dark attribute magic, a concentrated sphere of purple energy erupts from his hand, which he fires as a raging blast to collide head-on with the Vice Chief's ultimate attack. The sheer force of the collision shakes the entire arena as Leon maintains absolute focus, forcing the opposing elements to violently cancel each other out in a blinding flash of light, as the dust clears to reveal both fighters standing completely unharmed amidst the massive destruction. Watching from the sidelines, the spectators gasp in absolute disbelief at the ridiculous display of power. Meanwhile, Ryuji breaks into a cold sweat, struggling to comprehend how a student neutralized his composite magic, realizing Leon had to time his counterattack down to the exact millisecond to pull it off, a level of magic mastery that should be completely impossible for anyone currently in the academy. Staring at our protagonist, the battle maniac can only grin wildly at such an unbelievable opponent, before suddenly stepping forward and casually declaring that they are officially done with their little duel. Scratching his head in defeat, the Vice Chief admits he is thoroughly impressed by Leon's ridiculous defense, explaining that while he wants to keep fighting, the entire building will collapse if they continue, though he quickly points a finger, warning our protagonist not to assume this counts as a loss. Promising to properly settle their score the next time they meet on the battlefield, Luna floats around looking incredibly smug, claiming this mock battle was an absolute victory for her master, while Ryuji immediately tries to recruit our boy, planning to dump all his future paperwork onto him. But their conversation is cut short when Izumiya walks over to congratulate Leon on his performance. Suddenly, the Vice Chief gets a thoughtful look on his face as a brilliant idea strikes him, asking the group if they have already gone ahead and officially registered their student clan together. Since they are already a team, he offers them an official mission instead of waiting for graduation. Cut to the massive Savers branch headquarters where the squad is brought in for a briefing. Sitting around a sleek conference table, Leon asks what kind of job requires their specific attention, prompting Ryuji to pull up a detailed map showing the local distribution of active dungeon gates. Our protagonist silently notes that the guild's intelligence network is far more advanced than his own, though Izumiya mistakenly assumes they're just being sent to patrol the highest-risk gate zones. Shaking his head, the Vice Chief points out a massive empty blank spot on the map, explaining how bizarre it is that not a single gate has appeared there in 10 years. This realization leaves the rest of the team sweating as they realize how unnatural that anomaly is. Leon quickly deduces that something highly unusual must be hiding and actively suppressing the gates there, which Ryuji confirms, admitting his regular scouts were simply too weak to find any clues. Leaning in with a grin, the senior asks if our overpowered protagonist wants to investigate it himself, leaving Leon to carefully weigh the potential dangers and rewards of taking on such a mystery. Seeing his teammates nod with absolute confidence, our boy knows there is only one real answer. And with a confident smile, he officially accepts the job to kick off their first major mission. Leon arrives at the designated town just as the sun begins to set, ready to investigate the mysterious anomaly that has kept dungeon gates away for a decade, though Naru's immediately points out that everything looks completely normal on the surface, suggesting they start their investigation by asking the local townspeople for any unusual rumors. Our squad spends the next few hours questioning guards and locals about recent events, but unfortunately nobody seems to have noticed anything out of the ordinary. Just as they are about to give up, Leon notices his fairy companion looking incredibly tense, prompting Luna to reveal that she can sense a highly bizarre presence nearby, pointing them directly toward a dark, empty alleyway tucked between two massive buildings. Izumiya questions why they are suddenly heading into such a sketchy, narrow path, while our protagonist quietly asks Luna if she is absolutely sure about this location. Hearing her confirm that a strange supernatural power is indeed radiating from the shadows, Leon decides to take a gamble and prepare his specialized dark attribute magic, unleashing a powerful dispel spell that instantly tears through the hidden magical barrier, leaving his teammates completely speechless as the space itself begins to warp and shift. A massive dark stone staircase is revealed, leading deep into the underground abyss. Knowing they cannot turn back now, the group agrees to venture down together, stepping into the eerie darkness while wondering what terrifying secrets await them below. After descending for what feels like hours, Leon finally spots a glowing light ahead, only to freeze in absolute shock at the bizarre sight waiting at the bottom. Reaching the bottom, Leon and his team find a massive underground facility filled with glowing red flowers, leaving Naru's completely baffled as she examines the strange, otherworldly flora lining the pathways. But our protagonist's attention is quickly drawn to a high-tech console sitting further in the room. Realizing it looks identical to the device Shido used to manifest gates, Leon's suspicion grows. Though Izumiya points out that the former chairman is currently locked up by Saber's branch, this leaves our boy to deduce that a completely different mastermind must be pulling the strings, before a loud automated alarm suddenly blares through the facility, warning them of detected intruders. as a massive, heavily armored defense robot drops from the ceiling to execute disposal orders. Sensing the danger, Leon warns his teammates that the mechanical beast is locking onto them, prompting the entire squad to draw their weapons as the machine charges a bright blue energy, unleashing a colossal laser beam that tears through the solid ground with terrifying destructive force. Leaping backward just in time, the group narrowly avoids the blast as the floor crumbles beneath them. Instantly, the hostile machine deploys a spinning, star-shaped drone to launch a rapid follow-up assault, forcing the hunters to dodge and weave through a barrage of high-speed metallic blades. Taking charge, Leon shouts for his teammates to flank the hostile machine from both sides, while Naruto immediately conjures a massive icicle lance to pierce through the enemy's defenses, followed by Izumi firing a highly concentrated lightning shot directly from his magical bow. Seizing the perfect opening, our protagonist gathers his ominous purple dark attribute magic once again, firing a devastating coordinated strike that completely engulfs the mechanical threat in a blinding explosion, leaving the heavily damaged defense robot smoking and battered from their flawless team synergy. Right after the defense robot goes down, a mysterious voice echoes through the smoky chamber, politely asking our protagonist not to damage the beautiful garden he has worked so hard on, leaving Leon completely stunned as he tries to locate the source of this sudden intrusion. Before he can even react, the entire environment shifts into a bizarre red maze-like dimension, prompting a worried Luna to quickly check if her master is doing all right after the teleportation. As a tall, elegantly dressed man steps out of the shadows with a chilling smile, casually addressing our protagonist by his true name from his previous life, Kiribane Ren. Demanding to know his identity, Leon glares at the stranger while Luna senses an overwhelming pressure, warning her master that this terrifying opponent actually originates from an entirely different dimension. A shocking revelation that sends shivers down our hero's spine as he stares at the smug intruder. Dark memories of a ruthless knight from his past life begin to flash before his eyes, reminding him of the absolute monster who once brought ruin and despair to his previous world, until Leon finally recognizes the villain and screams out his name in pure rage, prompting the mysterious man to simply widen his grin, thoroughly enjoying the dramatic reaction. As he mockingly welcomes our protagonist to their long-awaited reunion in this strange, isolated space. Keeping his guard up, Leon demands to know how this dimensional traveler even learned his name, which Shark casually explains by revealing he received a detailed report from the Academy's corrupt former headmaster, confirming Leon's worst suspicions that Shido was indeed working directly with this interdimensional threat. Although Luna trembles in fear, our brave protagonist gently reassures his fairy companion that he will be fine, preparing to face Shark Crandall, the very monster who stole everything precious to him in his past life. Leon clenches his fist in pure rage, realizing his ultimate target is standing right before him, while Luna silently worries knowing Shark is the monster who slaughtered Leon's past life family. Fortunately, the villain has no idea that his opponent is actually his old nemesis reborn, leaving the little fairy to desperately pray that her master makes it out of this alive. Breaking the silence, Shark mockingly praises Leon for managing to take down his high-tech defense robot, prompting our protagonist to demand answers about the strange red flowers and the gate device. But the smug traveler casually declines to explain, claiming it would just be a waste of breath. Instead, his eyes begin to glow with a strange, blinding golden energy as he prepares to fight, unleashing a massive pillar of brilliant light that completely illuminates the dark red dimension. Shielding his face, Leon struggles to comprehend what kind of bizarre attribute is being used against him, as Shark proudly boasts that he alone commands the legendary holy power of the light attribute. This revelation leaves our boy suspicious, since his enemy never possessed such holy magic in their past lives, though he finds it absolutely hilarious that a cold-blooded murderer is wielding the element of light. Summoning a massive sword of pure golden energy, the villain asks if they should finally begin their duel, instantly launching a devastating slash that confirms this magic completely defies all modern-day rules. Refusing to back down, our overpowered protagonist starts channeling his own specialized dark magic, summoning his legendary jet black scythe to prove that he also commands a highly unique attribute. Staring in absolute shock, Shark is forced to reevaluate the student standing before him, realizing the Academy reports completely understated Leon's power by claiming he only mastered 4 basic elements. With a wild grin, the villain swings his glowing blade to clash directly with our hero's dark scythe. Leon swings his dark scythe with absolute fury, clashing directly against the glowing golden blade, while Shark effortlessly deflects the blow, his smug grin never fading for a single second, sending a massive shockwave of light and dark energy rippling through the entire chamber, forcing our protagonist to slide backward as he stabilizes his stance on the ground. Though the villain also leaps back to create some distance between them, mockingly praising Leon's impressive moves before preparing to unleash an even deadlier attack, leaving our boy highly suspicious of why his opponent is suddenly backing away, until a blinding beam of golden light suddenly streaks right past his face, erupting into a colossal pillar of energy that completely engulfs his previous position, barely missing Leon but still leaving a sharp, bleeding cut across his cheek, which only amuses the smug traveler as he casually commends our hero's reflexes, Our protagonist silently sweats, realizing that taking a direct hit would be absolutely fatal. As Shark mockingly points out that Leon possesses the kind of strength that saves worlds, before coldly admitting that he absolutely despises heroes and everything they stand for, wearing a sickening grin as he declares that slaughtering righteous people brings him pure delight, triggering a wave of absolute fury in our protagonist as his eyes narrow with hatred, prompting Leon to slam his scythe down and tell the monster to stop playing around, channeling a massive, roaring purple flame of dark magic directly into his bare hand. This bizarre move leaves Shark completely baffled as to why his opponent discarded his weapon, but deciding it does not matter as he charges forward to end the fight right now. Instead of throwing a punch, Leon channels his dark attribute magic to prepare a surprise trap, unleashing a massive web of glowing purple chains that shoot straight toward the sky, wrapping tightly around the smug villain and leaving him completely immobilized in absolute shock. Seizing the perfect opening, our boy raises his scythe to deliver the final decisive blow, slashing clean through his target with a massive wave of dark energy. But instead of falling, the villain's body begins to glow and shatter like glass. Wearing a chilling grin, the monster reveals that this physical form was merely a temporary illusion, promising that they will inevitably cross paths again to settle their deep-seated grudge. With those final parting words, the fake body dissolves entirely into a shower of golden sparks, leaving our protagonist alone in the quiet, empty space as the bizarre dimension fades away. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to him, snapping him back to reality, revealing Naros and Izumiya standing nearby, completely relieved to see that their leader is unharmed. Rather than explaining the crazy dimensional battle right now, Leon suggests they quickly leave the facility, silently swearing to himself that he will be ready for their next inevitable encounter, as he vows to permanently end the monster who ruined his previous life. A few days after the intense underground battle, our hero walks along the school rooftop, discussing the lack of clues regarding the villain's actual location with his floating fairy companion. Despite the setback, Leon remains confident that the mastermind will eventually make another move, prompting a cheerful Luna to enthusiastically cheer him on with absolute faith in his dark magic, while our overpowered protagonist silently stares into the horizon, ready for whatever comes next. Standing on the school rooftop, Leon admits to Luna that something has been bothering him lately, specifically how he managed to obtain dark attribute magic in the depths of that abyss, questioning why a goddess would grant him dark powers instead of the typical holy light, which suddenly triggers a massive realization for the floating fairy as she gasps in understanding, explaining that the deep abyss was actually overflowing with highly toxic dark magic particles, warning that ordinary humans would instantly lose control of their bodies and crumble to dust, prompting our protagonist to recall the suffocating, deathly pressure he felt during his fall. Turns out, magic is just particles absorbed by the body to awaken a person's latent talents, but since dark magic particles only exist in the absolute deepest corners of the underworld, this goddess had no choice but to utilize the surrounding energy to save his life. Luna sheepishly admits she could only send glitched, incomprehensible system messages back then, yet Leon somehow endured the underworld's corruption and forged it into his own strength, officially earning our overpowered protagonist the legendary badass title of the Underworld Transcendent, as the little fairy softly confesses that she has been watching over him this entire time, witnessing him lose his beloved family and fight against a million monsters all by himself. Having felt exactly how much agonizing pain and suffering he had to endure in his past life, while she could do absolutely nothing but watch until the goddess finally opened the gate, revealing her true identity as the goddess's angel, she asks him to save this new world, though she sweetly adds that her absolute biggest wish is simply to see Leon's own desires fulfilled, leaving our boy to quietly process the heartfelt truth with a determined, grateful look. Staring at his hand, Leon acknowledges that he is merely borrowing this temporary mortal body, but he still vows to his fairy companion that he will defeat Shark no matter what, prompting a delighted Luna to happily promise her absolute support for the upcoming battles. Suddenly, a loud ringing sound interrupts their quiet moment on the school rooftop, leaving our protagonist quite surprised as he pulls out his vibrating smartphone. Heading downstairs to the reception room, he prepares to meet with the association members, where Vice Branch Chief Nahama casually greets him with a rather smug, knowing smile, and our boy asks what is wrong when the older man requests a private chat, who slowly leans back to reveal a highly serious secret he has been keeping, but their conversation is abruptly cut short when Nahama's phone suddenly begins to ring. Answering the call, he listens as a panicked subordinate reports a strange blue gate appearing, though the vice chief initially dismisses the threat as something they can easily handle themselves, until the caller desperately explains the highly unusual location where this portal actually manifested. Stepping outside, the entire group watches in absolute horror as the sky turns a deep crimson, revealing thousands of glowing red spider lilies blooming across the city in a terrifying display. As another association member runs up to report on the rapidly deteriorating situation, he suddenly collapses to the ground while clutching his throat in sheer agony, leaving the surrounding onlookers completely paralyzed with shock at his sudden, violent choking fit. Kneeling down to inspect him, the group quickly realizes the toxic red flowers are causing this, which Nahama grimly confirms is the exact warning he wanted to share with Leon earlier. Naros holds up a glowing pink vial, recognizing it as the sample from the underground facility. Leon confirms that their research team just finished analyzing the strange liquid inside, revealing the terrifying truth that these red flowers can completely drain a mage's mana, which leaves Izumiya completely stunned since even Leon had no idea such a threat existed, prompting Nehama to realize the collapsed association member was also targeted by this draining effect. Though it apparently only affects people whose mana pools fall below a certain threshold. Hearing this, our trio realizes they need to act fast before the city is completely paralyzed, so Leon tells the vice chief to handle the evacuation while they deal with the gate, which Nehama readily accepts, knowing a strong leader is desperately needed on the surface, letting out a heavy sigh as he prepares to coordinate the chaotic rescue efforts, demanding only one thing in return, which is for our hero to seal the portal permanently. With a determined nod, the students agree to the plan and prepare to head inside, stepping directly through the portal as a freezing wind immediately begins to howl around them, revealing a massive, desolate mountain range covered in a relentless, blinding blizzard, leaving the group shivering as they realize this dungeon is far more dangerous than advertised. While Leon silently connects the dots, certain that Shark is behind this mana-draining trap, clenching his fist in anger as he vows to stop the villain's schemes at any cost, prompting our protagonist to lead the charge as they sprint deeper into the frozen wasteland. Suddenly, Naros gasps for air and collapses into the snow, completely out of energy, leaving Leon to look back in absolute horror as both of his teammates drop unconscious. Leon cannot believe such a disaster is happening, wondering how their mission went so horribly wrong, recalling how smoothly things were going when they first entered the gate and cleared the mobs, but their easy run quickly ended when this giant frozen titan blocked their path forward. Izumiya immediately recognized the beast as a Frost Gigas, a common boss in blue rank gates, suggesting they exploit its slow movement speed to easily confuse and overwhelm the massive creature. Unimpressed by their chatter, the giant raised a glowing fist to crush the annoying intruders, slamming its heavy arm down to unleash a devastating shockwave across the snowy battlefield, only for Izumiya to counter with a blinding arrow of light aimed straight at its face, detonating a barrage of glowing projectiles that completely shattered the monster's icy defenses. Stunned by the sudden explosive counterattack, the giant stumbled backward as its face began to crack, while the glasses-wearing archer casually posed, proving he was far more than just a backup mage. Seizing the opening, Naros leaped high into the air to rain down a flurry of fire, leaving Leon to step up and prepare his scythe for the final decisive strike. With a single swift motion, our protagonist unleashed a massive wave of dark energy, slicing clean through the monster's core and sealing its fate once and for all. This giant ice beast completely shattered into pieces, ending the brief skirmish in spectacular fashion. Landing gracefully on the snow, Leon expected a moment of peace after their quick victory, but his worried teammate ran over, asking if he was alright as a strange sensation hit him, causing his eyes to widen in shock as he sensed a familiar, ominous presence nearby, pointing toward the ground where those terrifying red spider lilies were already blooming in the frozen wasteland. Red energy surges from the ground as the toxic spider lilies glow with a sinister power, fueling the defeated Frost Gigas as it suddenly begins to absorb the dark, corrupting energy, clenching its massive fists as the red glow intensifies to an absolutely blinding level, suddenly unleashing a devastating shockwave of crimson force that tears across the entire frozen battlefield, catching our overpowered protagonist completely off guard as he barely braces for the impact. While his teammates are violently blown backward by the sheer pressure of the explosion, struggling to stand, the glasses-wearing archer realizes this boss is using attacks far beyond its rank, prompting a worried Luna to quickly check on Leon as he slowly recovers his footing, who immediately calls out to his teammates to ensure they survive the devastating blast, realizing the toxic flowers are actively mutating the giant and supercharging its core with miasma, which means they must strike first before the beast can unleash another catastrophic attack. So our boy channels his dark attribute magic, aiming directly for the monster's glowing chest, firing a massive blast of destructive pressure that collides head-on with the mutated titan. But despite the direct hit, the archer quickly warns that their attack was completely useless. Sure enough, the giant emerges from the smoke with its core completely unharmed and glowing, proving its defensive power has skyrocketed, leaving Leon in desperate need of a stronger spell, until his little fairy companion suggests utilizing the secret magic he had been practicing lately, instantly catching the attention of his teammates as they look at him with absolute trust. As Naros asks if he has a plan to pierce the monster's reinforced armor, Leon confirms he does, but since he needs time to charge, his allies vow to buy him time. Izumiya and Naros assure him they can still move, putting all their trust in his final strike. Accepting their support, our boy gives a confident nod and tells them to leave the rest to him. With their roles decided, the two brave students charge straight back into the freezing storm, while the mutated ice titan roars in fury, its core pulsing with that corruptive red energy. As the giant swings its massive fist, Naros prepares her magic to draw its attention away, letting Leon close his eyes to focus entirely on the complex spell he needs to visualize. Suddenly, blazing orange fire and dark purple energy begin to crackle wildly in his hands, leaving his teammates completely speechless as they sense the absurd amount of pressure radiating from him. Sensing the danger, the giant prepares to unleash another devastating blast from its glowing chest, but the duo intercepts the beast with a coordinated barrage of fire and light arrows, buying just enough time as the massive titan struggles to push through their desperate defense. Finally ready, our overpowered protagonist unleashes his brand new fusion magic in a swirling vortex of destruction, calling out his devastating black flame strike as the chaotic energy surges toward the target, completely engulfing the mutated giant in a terrifying storm of dark, incinerating flames. Watching from the sidelines, his allies realize he just fused two opposing attributes with absolute ease, which is a high-level technique that usually takes years of intense training to master. Our boy just casually deletes the boss, leaving nothing but a massive crater in the snow. Naruto runs over in absolute relief, celebrating their hard-fought victory over the terrifying monster, though our protagonist remains deeply concerned about the bigger picture behind this sudden mutation. Realizing the entire world is in grave danger if these toxic red flowers start invading other dungeons. Meanwhile, a mysterious villain observes that even the flower-boosted monsters have been defeated, narrowing his eyes as he prepares to initiate the next phase of his master plan, staring down at a glowing ritual altar surrounded by burning torches of dark energy, declaring with a smug grin that the revival of the Demon King is finally at hand. Days after their icy battle, Leon and his team find themselves constantly fighting in relentless skirmishes, especially since the toxic red flowers are actively supercharging every monster they encounter, sparking global panic as citizens are forced to evacuate the infested districts immediately, leaving the students of the Magic Academy completely anxious about their own safety, until Headmaster Janice orders everyone to pack up and relocate to a safer area. Over at the prestigious Saber faction, things are also starting to get incredibly busy, where their leader rallies the students by pointing out that everyone else is already fighting, passionately declaring that they cannot simply sit back and watch the world burn, which instantly fires up the crowd as they roar in absolute agreement, allowing Vice Branch Chief Nehama to take command and coordinate the defense forces. Teaming up with our protagonist's squad to aggressively push back the invading hordes, after a grueling battle, the exhausted hunters successfully seal yet another dangerous gate, admitting that they only survived thanks to the massive support from the Saber members, though Leon remains deeply troubled by how much harder these raids have suddenly become, prompting Luna to ask if the villainous Prince Shark is behind this chaotic mess, which our hero grimly confirms as his weary allies wonder how much longer they can hold out. Leon recalls the villain's parting words, promising to face him next time in his true form, leaving our hero staring into the sunset as he wonders what the prince is plotting next. Back at the academy, a peaceful sunset blankets the city as birds fly over the campus grounds, but the quiet moment is suddenly interrupted when the trio notices some commotion nearby, finding a massive explosion of elemental magic detonating right in the middle of the courtyard, where dozens of students are actively training and firing off spells at each other, which completely confuses Leon since the entire school was supposed to be evacuating, prompting Headmaster Janice to suddenly walk up and greet the returning team with a smile. This headmaster congratulates them on their latest victory, which Leon humbly attributes to Saber's assistance, before asking why the campus is still packed with students instead of being empty, only for Janice to reveal that the kids actually refused to run away this time, explaining with a proud grin that our protagonist has deeply inspired the entire student body, who begged their teachers to train them in real combat rather than hiding behind others, allowing the former instructor to happily oblige and guide their newfound passion for battle. Down on the field, the students refuse to quit, pushing their limits even after a grueling workout, which brings a genuine warm smile to our hero's face as he watches them grow, while Izumiya grabs a water bottle and admits they really cannot complain about the extra help, and Naruto happily agrees, sitting nearby as they enjoy a brief moment of hard-earned peace. Suddenly, the archer points out that this massive shift in attitude is entirely Leon's fault, since seeing the academy's former worst student rise to the top gave everyone hope to fight. Naruto smiles, pointing out that our boy's incredible rise to power has motivated the entire academy, which Leon quietly accepts, realizing his actions have truly changed the atmosphere around campus. Suddenly, the glasses-wearing archer spots a familiar face down on the training field below, prompting the trio to look over the balcony to see who is causing such a stir. Recognizing Makabe, a notorious delinquent who used to be a massive headache for the student council, leaving Luna completely shocked that Leon's former bully is actually putting in real effort. Even as his classmates warn him not to overdo it, the hot-headed student refuses to rest, desperately pushing his limits because he absolutely refuses to be left behind by our protagonist. Charging forward with pure determination, he demands his training partners bring on the next round immediately, an action that brings a soft chuckle from Izumiya, who notes the bully was clearly influenced by Leon, bringing a genuine warm smile to our hero's face as he watches his old rival grow. He briefly recalls how the original owner of this body was once bullied and kicked around, wishing the poor kid could have lived to see how much things have finally changed, but his peaceful reflection is instantly shattered as a sudden heavy pressure suffocates the air. The sky violently shifts as a massive vortex of dark purple energy erupts over the courtyard, halting the students' training in an instant as they look up in absolute confusion and fear, while Headmaster Janice watches the clouds turn pitch black, sensing an incredibly ominous threat approaching, sending Luna into a panic as she points toward the ground right beneath their feet, causing Leon's eyes to widen in pure horror as he realizes what is happening. Watching those terrifying, toxic red spider lilies rapidly bloom across the entire academy training field, this terrifying red flowers spread across the courtyard, instantly catching the students completely off guard, before massive pillars of destructive energy rain down from the sky and shatter the peaceful campus, unleashing a swarm of flying monsters directly into the courtyard as panicked students scream in terror. Watching the chaos unfold, the glasses-wearing archer instantly realizes they are in deep trouble, while Leon grits his teeth in pure frustration, recognizing the sinister plot behind the sudden invasion. High above the ruined academy, the smug blonde villain chuckles as he watches his chaotic plan succeed, declaring with a sinister grin that it is finally time to begin their grand harvest. Meanwhile, dozens of glowing dates continue to rip open, dropping high-level beasts right onto the helpless students, who scramble for safety as the sky fills with bloodthirsty monsters eager to hunt them down, causing one of the training students to suddenly gasp and collapse in agonizing pain, prompting his classmate to rush over in a panic, desperately trying to understand what went wrong. Turns out, the toxic red flowers are actively draining the mana right out of their bodies, leaving them completely defenseless as a pack of shadow wolves leaps down to finish them off, forcing the remaining student to curse his luck as the beasts close in for the kill. Fortunately, our overpowered protagonist and his elite squad dive straight into the fray to intercept the threat, treading the invading monsters with a coordinated barrage of magic and arrows to protect their classmates, landing gracefully in front of the injured survivors to shield them from any further danger. Leon confidently tells the terrified kids to fall back and leave the rest of the fight to them, as Naros and Izumiya step up beside him, fully prepared to hold the line despite the overwhelming odds, realizing this massive outbreak of dates and toxic flowers is only the beginning of a much larger war. Suddenly, Luna alerts our boy that she has detected a strange energy signature nearby, pointing him toward a dark silhouette lurking deep within the eerie crimson-tinted forest, which confirms that the villainous Prince Shark is indeed pulling the strings from the shadows, sending a wave of pure anger through Leon as he prepares for the inevitable showdown. He suddenly recalls the traitorous teacher's words about the students being nothing but food, realizing these toxic red flowers are actively harvesting mana to fuel some greater evil, prompting a worried Izumiya to ask what is wrong after noticing his sudden distraction. Our hero explains that the mastermind from the underground facility is definitely behind this invasion, leaving his teammates completely horrified as they realize the academy is the primary target. But Leon remains absolutely certain that Prince Shark is the one orchestrating this entire nightmare. Meanwhile, a swarm of flying drakes continues to rain down devastating fireballs onto the campus, forcing Izumiya to step up and tell our protagonist to go handle the main boss. Knowing full well that their overpowered leader would not sit back even if they tried stopping him, Naru smiles warmly, reminding him that saving the world is exactly what he does best. Before the brave duo charges straight into the chaotic battlefield without a single shred of fear, they immediately unleash a coordinated barrage of elemental magic to push back the invading horde, blasting through shadow wolves and flying beasts to keep the helpless students safe from harm. While Leon watches in awe, only to be interrupted by a giant venomous snake monster, our hero swiftly cleaves the massive serpent in half with a single strike of purple energy, saving his reckless teammates as Luna panics over the endless waves of monsters still arriving. Headmaster Janice tells Leon not to worry as he rushes forward to join the chaotic battle, channeling his advanced earth magic into a massive fist of glowing golden energy to strike, which slams down with crushing pressure to completely flat a giant red serpent monster, unleashing devastating pillars of light that obliterate the invading hordes across the courtyard, leaving nothing but defeated shadow wolves lying in smoking craters across the ruined academy grounds. Our hero can only stare in awe at the headmaster's incredible display of raw power, who proudly declares that no student will ever get hurt while he is still standing. But a massive stone golem suddenly rips through a gate right behind a fleeing student, forcing Leon to turn around in a panic as he prepares to intercept the threat, only to stop in his tracks when he realizes who is already charging the beast, as Macabe leaps into the air and delivers a devastating punch straight to its face. Unfortunately, the toxic red flowers instantly latch onto his leg to drain his mana, prompting the hot-headed delinquent to ask Leon if the mastermind is indeed lurking nearby, admitting that he knows they still have plenty of unresolved issues between them, but he wants to set things straight and apologize for his past behavior, confessing that he completely underestimated our protagonist's incredible growth and rapid rise to power, which leaves Leon absolutely speechless as his former bully actually swallows his pride. Charging back into the fray, Makid tells our hero to go handle the main boss, since he is easily the strongest hunter capable of saving their school from total destruction, while Janice reassures him that reinforcements are already on the way to secure the campus. Clenching his fist with absolute resolve, our hero prepares to put an end to this nightmare, dashing straight toward the source of the dark energy to confront the mastermind himself. while the entire academy grounds continue to burn under the terrifying crimson glow of the invasion. Landing heavily on the forest path, Leon finally stops as he reaches his destination, finding the smug blonde traitor waiting for him in the middle of the eerie woods, where our angry protagonist immediately demands answers from the corrupt prince, who simply chuckles at the dramatic entrance, completely unfazed by the hero's intense bloodlust. Turning around with a wicked grin to admit he knew the academy's top student would arrive soon, prompting Leon to instantly call him out for orchestrating this entire horrific attack on the school. This villain casually explains that this massive assault is nothing more than a grand harvest, revealing that those toxic red flowers are actively draining everyone's mana for a greater purpose, which turns out to be the ultimate resurrection of the legendary Demon King himself, boasting that this chaotic sacrifice will grant him unimaginable power once the ritual is complete. While down below, the helpless students continue to struggle against the endless waves of invading monsters, confirming Leon's worst fears that this madman has been working with the dark forces all along. Shark proudly explains that he has spent years conducting secret experiments to prepare for this day. But his perfect plans were constantly interrupted by a strange, unpredictable anomaly in the system, looking directly at our hero as he claims to have finally solved the mystery, sending a cold shiver down Leon's spine as he wonders what this lunatic actually knows, only for the prince to drop a massive bombshell declaring that he knows his true identity. Shark drops a massive bombshell, smugly pointing out that Leon does not belong to this world, which leaves our protagonist completely frozen as his actual identity is laid bare. Enjoying the hero's sheer panic, the villainous prince mockingly addresses him by his full name, prompting Leon to grit his teeth and demand to know how long he has known. This corrupt noble explains that should his report about the weakest student suddenly awakening raised immediate red flags, and witnessing Leon's unique attribute magic in their recent battle turned those suspicions into absolute certainty. Recalling how that exact same energy signature matched the presence he once felt in the cave, this revelation sends our boy into absolute shock, wondering why this boss is not in his own world. But the smug prince simply brushes off the question, claiming the details do not actually matter. Instead, he goes our protagonist to start their fight, asking if he truly hates him that much, before suggesting he might have more fun if he slaughtered the helpless academy students first. Hearing his classmates' threat like that, Leon falls into a dark, silent rage, accepting the challenge as he summons his glowing purple scythe to end this once and for all, promising to drag this arrogant royal straight to hell with his next strike. Shark merely chuckles at the display of spirit, completely unfazed by the hero's intense bloodlust, warning Leon not to get too ahead of himself as golden mana begins to coat his hand. Launching our boy high into the air to unleash a devastating downward slash with his scythe, pouring every ounce of his rage into the strike to obliterate the smug villain below, only for the massive purple energy wave to crash uselessly against a powerful golden barrier. This effortless defense leaves Leon utterly stunned, realizing his opponent is far stronger than he anticipated. Shark smugly notes that while Leon's pressure is impressive, he has already seen this trick before, declaring with a wicked grin that the hero's attacks will not work on him anymore, before unleashing a massive beam of golden light that forces Leon to brace for impact, leaving our protagonist struggling to hold his ground against the sheer weight of the blast, as the arrogant prince boasts that his real body wields power incomparable to his weak clones, channeling his true light attribute magic to completely overwhelm our boy with a devastating explosion, sending Leon skidding violently across the dirt as the shockwave tears through the forest, coughing up blood from the impact as the young hunter struggles to catch his breath, while a panicked Luna desperately checks on him as he clutches his bruised chest. Glaring back at his opponent, Leon tries to analyze the strange magic circle protecting the villain, realizing it is an absolute barrier designed to block any incoming magical attacks from passing through. As this corrupt noble smugly prepares his next strike, telling our hero to prepare for death, but Leon refuses to back down, thrusting his hand forward to counter the threat. He instantly summons his purple chains of restraint to bind the arrogant royal in place, only for the glowing links to shatter uselessly against the prince's impenetrable golden defense, floating effortlessly above the battlefield as the villain laughs while the chains dissolve into harmless sparks, prompting our shocked protagonist to realize his offensive spells are completely ineffective against this barrier. This smug noble coldly declares that any further resistance is entirely useless, launching another devastating pillar of golden light to finish off the weakened hero once and for all, forcing Leon to quickly summon his Mirror of Rejection to block the incoming blast. This devastating golden beam completely shatters Leon's Mirror of Rejection with absolutely overwhelming force, leaving our hero completely stunned as he realizes his ultimate defense was bypassed, and the massive explosion tears a massive trench straight through the forest path, while the smug prince watches the destructive blast light up the dark canopy. Barely surviving the impact, Leon braces himself against a rock with torn clothes, prompting the arrogant royal to mock him for barely dodging a fatal blow. This corrupt noble boasts that no amount of magic can save him now, forcing our bruised protagonist to desperately search for a way out of this mess. As the villain prepares to fire another blast at his helpless target, watching from the sidelines, Luna panics as she sees her master in mortal danger, hating the fact that she is once again completely useless in battle. but she quickly hardens her resolve to do whatever it takes to help. Shark smugly declares that it is finally time to end this pathetic struggle, only to get violently tackled right in the face by the tiny fairy, which leaves Leon completely speechless as he watches his companion risk her life. Annoyed by the sudden distraction, the prince struggles to peel her off his face, before violently throwing her away with a single sweep of his arm, sending the poor fairy crashing brutally onto the hard dirt path below. Our horrified hero rushes over to cradle his unconscious and badly bruised friend. Rushing off his shoulder, the smug noble casually dismisses her sacrifice as entirely meaningless. Shark unleashes a massive pillar of golden energy, preparing to wipe out everything in his path. The smug prince boasts that he will bury Leon and his friends together under his overwhelming power. Realizing the sheer scale of the incoming attack, our hero panics as his mind starts to race. He remembers the unconscious fairy beside him and all the innocent students still fighting back at school. Terrified of losing everything for a second time, Leon desperately struggles to find a way out, but his eyes suddenly flash with absolute determination as he refuses to let this villain win. Bracing his feet against the dirt, the young hunter decides to take one final dangerous gamble. Standing tall over his fallen companion, he prepares to execute his last remaining trump card. This arrogant royal mockingly commends him for choosing to die while protecting a useless little fairy, instantly launching his devastating beam of golden light to vaporize both of them on the spot. A massive explosion erupts across the forest path, kicking up a blinding cloud of dust and debris. Expecting an easy victory, the corrupt prince smiles wickedly as the smoke begins to clear, only for his smug expression to completely freeze when he senses something is terribly wrong. Staring ahead in absolute disbelief, the villain can barely process the sight unfolding before him, since his ultimate attack did not actually obliterate his target like he had planned. Instead, swirling currents of purple and gold energy are actively dancing around our standing protagonist, who is now completely coated in the prince's own signature light attribute magic. This shocking turn of events leaves the traitorous noble gritting his teeth in pure frustration, realizing that Leon somehow managed to absorb his mana and turn it into his own power. At that exact moment, Luna slowly opens her eyes and notices an even greater change. Leon stands enveloped in purple and gold energy, fusing the stolen light with his own dark attribute, which leaves a stunned Luna realizing exactly what our crazy protagonist just pulled off, recalling how he previously used his dark magic to absorb enemy mana during past battles. But pulling off a high-level stunt on this massive scale is a whole different story, requiring an insane level of magical precision that normal mages could only dream of. Smirking through the swirling vortex, our boy proudly declares that his dangerous gamble completely paid off. Charging up his fist with explosive powers, he tells the traitor to prepare himself, though the corrupt prince merely scowls, warning Leon not to underestimate his royal strength, confidently raising his hand to summon that supposedly impenetrable golden barrier once again. Unfortunately for him, Leon charges straight ahead and unleashes a devastating strike right through the defense, shattering the golden shield into tiny pieces and leaving the villain in absolute shock, unable to comprehend how his ultimate absolute defense was bypassed so effortlessly. Our hero casually explains that because he absorbed the same light attribute, the barrier is completely useless, cornering the panicked prince who can only clutch his arm in sheer frustration. While Leon glares back with cold eyes, ready to finally repay him for everything, instead of begging for mercy, the corrupt noble suddenly bursts into a creepy maniacal laugh, praising the legendary hero for creating an entirely new spell right in the middle of combat, before smugly pointing out that Leon still does not have what it takes to defeat him, as the ominous red flowers on the ground begin channeling dark energy directly into his body, letting him summon the terrifying, corrupted power of the Demon King himself to turn the tide. Leon glares at the villain, finally confirming that he is indeed channeling the dark power of Belfar, and the smug prince proudly admits it, claiming he was personally chosen by the Demon Lord himself, before casually dropping the bombshell that he eliminated the king and Princess Sarah to clear his path. This horrific confession leaves our protagonist completely frozen, unable to believe his ears as the bloody truth sinks in. He bitterly reminds the traitor that those two trusted him blindly until their very last moments, recalling how they desperately held on to the hope that their beloved hero was still alive somewhere. But the corrupt noble simply sneers, calling their loyalty annoying before admitting he slaughtered them without hesitation. As the grim memory of their tragic end flashes before our boy's eyes, this villainous prince explains how the Demon Lord reached out to him directly with a tempting offer, promising him absolute immortality in exchange for assisting with his ultimate resurrection. While traveling to this magic-rich world was necessary, the promise of eternal life sounded far sweeter than simple conquest, prompting a deeply disgusted Leon to look up at his former ally with pure hatred, demanding to know how anyone could commit such unspeakable atrocities for the sake of selfish greed. Shark merely responds with a twisted mocking grin, asking if the answer is not completely obvious, coldly declaring that his entire motivation stems from his deep, burning hatred for our protagonist. He bitterly recalls how Leon was showered with endless praise, earning the king's trust and the princess's favor, screaming that the hero must have felt incredibly superior while basking in the world's bright light, which is exactly why he resolved to strip away everything precious to destroy his perfect life. remembering the moment he ruthlessly betrayed our boy and kicked him off that fateful cliff. This mad prince stands victorious, ready to claim his eternal reward while leaving his rival in absolute despair. Shark revels in his twisted power, completely ignoring Leon's warning to stop messing around. Enveloped in a swirling dark aura, our protagonist warns the prince about dragging innocence into his mess. He recalls the brave souls who fought selflessly to protect this world from total destruction, remembering his loyal companions who sacrificed everything to stop the villain's pathetic, greedy ambitions, since their pure devotion completely eclipses any power this corrupt noble could ever hope to wield. This bold declaration catches the traitor off guard, leaving him momentarily stunned by the hero's resolve. Stamping his foot down, Leon unleashes a surge of purple mana to anchor himself to the ground, preparing to unleash a dual-attribute strike that will end this bitter rivalry once and for all. But the mad prince merely laughs, welcoming the challenge with a twisted, manic grin of his own. This corrupt noble immediately fires a massive beam of destructive energy directly at our standing protagonist, prompting a worried Luna to call out to her master, who calmly reassures her that everything is fine, clenching his glowing fist with absolute confidence as he promises to secure a decisive victory, while the arrogant prince summons a colossal sphere of apocalyptic fire to claim dominion over the world. A massive sun-like blast descends rapidly, threatening to vaporize everything left on the forest path, but Leon refuses to yield, screaming that he will defeat this monster no matter the cost, launching a colossal vortex of fused purple and gold energy to meet the incoming threat head-on, resulting in a catastrophic collision that tears the very fabric of the surrounding forest apart, as a terrifying fiery skull manifests within the blast, channeling the pure malice of the Demon King, pushing against our hero's desperate counterattack in a brutal struggle for ultimate survival, leaving the corrupt prince gritting his teeth as he realizes Leon is not backing down. This colossal clash of opposing elements creates a swirling vortex of pure apocalyptic destruction, but Leon's fused purple beam pierces straight through the center of the fiery skull, leaving the arrogant prince completely frozen as he witnesses his ultimate attack get utterly shattered. While Luna realizes her master has been holding back his true magical intensity this entire time, having constantly fought and refined his skills through endless brutal battles in the past, pushing his limits against terrifying foes to reach a level of power no normal mage could comprehend. And now that overwhelming strength finally erupts to swallow the corrupt noble whole, clenching his fist, our boy roars that this pathetic rivalry is finally over. As a massive pillar of purple light blasts the traitor straight into the sky, rapidly disintegrating the prince's stolen demonic power with absolute overwhelming force in an instant, forcing him to scream in absolute denial as his absolute defense fails him once again, before his entire body dissolves into nothingness, ending his delusional dreams of eternal life. Golden particles rain down over the quiet forest path as the terrifying battle finally concludes, while the ominous dark clouds of the Demon King slowly part to reveal the sunset, prompting the exhausted students back at the academy to look up in sheer relief. Standing victorious in the clearing, our young hunter is joined by a very relieved Luna, who watches her master look toward the horizon, his long-awaited revenge finally complete. You've watched till this end of my content. Thank you. And to keep updated, please follow, subscribe, like, and share my content. See you in the next part.